Chapter 1138. The atmosphere of the sixth heaven, which had just been peaceful for a while, began to feel a little strange. It was rumored that a peak 9-star King Realm expert had appeared in a certain continent. It was also rumored that a mysterious person had visited a certain academy. Someone recognized him as a former super genius of the academy. They thought he had passed his tribulation, but he had returned. At Fenglai Academy, the dean and vice dean were anxiously waiting for something at the entrance. Not long after, an elegant woman stood in front of Fenglai Academy's entrance. Seeing this woman, Li Wei and Yao He rushed over. Sister Qingli. The woman looked at Li Wei and Yao He and nodded indifferently. Her indifference was in sharp contrast to Li Wei and Yao He's enthusiasm. Since you're all here, I'll stay at Fenglai for the time being. With that, she left the two behind and walked towards Fenglai Academy. She even pretended not to hear the dean call her martial aunt. Li Wei and Yao He exchanged glances and couldn't help but sigh. Sister Li Wei, Sister Qingli is about to pass her tribulation. She's already tried her best to cut off her worldly emotions. She doesn't even feel anything when she sees us. Li Wei sighed. I still remember when we were young. She took care of us and raised us. But now, I really don't know if cultivating is a good thing or not. Yao He's expression was lonely, but she quickly raised her head. Sister Qingli said that if anyone dares to touch Fenglai, we should inform her. I think she still misses us. Li Wei shook her head. Maybe that's just the thoughts of the strong. If anyone touches Fenglai, it's disrespectful to her. It might not be because of old feelings. Sister Qingli had returned. This might be the last time the three sisters would be reunited. However, Qingli didn't seem to recognize Li Wei and Yao He. At the same time, at Fenglai Academy, the Black Armor King had already purchased 7 inns near the Immortal Corpse Mound. He was leading people to expand his business. He was so busy that no one could see him. Because it was a rush job, the Black Armor King offered a high salary. But unexpectedly, Yi Fan didn't go to the Immortal Corpse Mound. He stayed in the meditation pavilion all day long. Xiao Zhan and Chu Tian had gone to see him twice. That fellow was sitting there by himself, completely immersed in cultivation. Xiao Zhan said to Chu Tian, "Senior brother, Yi Fan wouldn't take things too hard, right? After all, the grudge between the Violet Sky Palace and the college chief was caused by him." Chu Tian shook his head and said, "You can't say that. I heard that the woman who came to challenge us last time is acquainted with the principal. She wants to kill the principal. He just happened to be used by the Purple Sky Palace." "Don't worry, junior brother Yi Fan isn't that weak. I feel that he wants to become stronger faster. I haven't seen him train so hard in a long time." "Then we have to work harder. When the time comes, I'll accompany Yi Fan to kill our way to the Purple Heavenly Palace," Xiao Zhan said. Chu Tian curled his lips. "You're shouting so loudly. What were you doing earlier? Right now the meditation pavilion and the teaching pavilion are filled with people. When those junior brothers and junior sisters heard about the emergence of experts recently, they seemed to be very excited and began to cultivate crazily." Xiao Zhan narrowed his eyes slightly. "The more experts there are, the better. That way, I can start to get serious. Senior brother, let's go and call Yi Fan, Wuxia, and Skyfall." "Ah, they're all cultivating. Let's not disturb them." "No, what's so good about cultivating in the meditation pavilion? I'll take you to a good place." After saying that, Xiao Zhan pulled Chu Tian and Yi Fan out, and went to find Wuxia and Skyfall. "Hey, I have a cultivation space here. I'm usually reluctant to use it, but this time, I'll take you with me," Xiao Zhan said mysteriously. "As long as you have the ability, it's not difficult to get the reality extraction scroll. But each person has to pay 1 million spiritual stones." "Oh, there's such a good place? Okay, wait here. I'll go and get the money." "I'll go too." Suddenly, only Xiao Zhan and Yi Fan were left. Xiao Zhan looked at Yi Fan in surprise. "Junior brother, don't tell me you have 1 million spiritual stones on you?" "Senior brother, do I look like a rich person to you?" "Nope." "Then that's it. 2 days ago, I borrowed another 2 million spiritual stones from senior brother Xianjia. Recently, I've been needing a lot of materials for cultivation." "No way then. Let me tell you, Even blood brothers have clear accounts. Don't think of using my cultivation space for free. This thing needs money to recharge. Senior brother, how can I use it for free? Why don't you lend me 1,000,000 spiritual stones? Can we count it as a loan? Yi Fan said seriously. You can't just leave me alone. Yi Fan, I'm even doubting if you can repay senior brother Xianjia's debt. Yi Fan sighed. AI as expected, brothers are all lies. The relationship between you and me can't even compare to a mere 1,000,000 spiritual stones. Senior brother, thank you for asking me to come, but I really can't take out so much money. I'm going back to the meditation pavilion. Xiaozhan was so angry that he grimaced. This guy was clearly saying that he was heartless, and even made him look like a victim. All right, stop it. Xiaozhan called out to Yi Fan. All right, I'll lend it to you. Tell me, as the strongest disciple of the divine demon sect, how can you be so poor? Yi Fan immediately turned around with a smile on his face. Hee, I knew junior brother Xiao was the best. Xiaozhan shook his head helplessly. AI, when the dean comes back, you should learn how to manage money from him. At the mention of the dean, Yi Fan couldn't help but stop smiling. I wonder how the dean is doing now. Yeah, I feel that the sudden appearance of so many super strong people might have something to do with the dean and the Purple Heaven Palace's agreement in 7 days. I'm really worried about him this time. The dean has been at the Imperial Heaven Palace for 3 days. I wonder if he's gained anything. Lu Chen had been in the mountain realm for 3 whole days. Other than the first day when he was unconscious, he hadn't slept or rested for the past 2 days. He had been trying to see how to climb the steps. Each step was different. Lu Chen had to constantly change the way his spiritual power worked. At first, Lu Chen needed half an hour to climb 1 step. Then it took him 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And now, Lu Chen could rapidly change the way his spiritual energy circulates in his body within 3 minutes, and step onto a stair in 3 minutes. However, after walking for 3 days, there were still countless steps in front of him. There were only 2 days left. Lu Chen still didn't know what was at the top of the mountain. Even if there were any opportunities, he might still need to comprehend them. He didn't know how long it would take. However, Lu Chen suppressed the anxiety in his heart and focused on sensing the spiritual power. There were no shortcuts here. He had to practice tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of times to increase his speed. With Lu Chen's state of mind, Lu Chen's speed continued to increase. 20 steps in an hour, 30 steps in an hour, 50 steps in an hour. Half a day later, Lu Chen took a short break. I can now see the spiritual power working in the steps at a glance. I can adjust my spiritual power in about a minute. It's many times stronger than when I first started. It feels like success is coming naturally. Damn it, Jiu is frantically leveling up in the celestial fantasy realm. And I'm frantically climbing levels here. Forget it, I don't care. I'll continue to increase my speed. Chapter 1139. On the 5th day of entering the immortal Emperor Sumeru realm, Lu Chen's climbing speed had reached 1 step per second. He could see through the characteristics of the spirit energy of the stone steps, and quickly change the spirit energy circulation of one of his feet. All of this was done in a second. However, Lu Chen was not satisfied with his current speed. He was still practicing. After reaching this level, Lu Chen's improvement speed was faster than before. From 1 step per second to 2 steps per second, 3 steps per second. 4 days and 20 hours after entering the Emperor Heaven Immortal Palace, Lu Chen finally saw the end of the stairway. Am I finally there? Lu Chen increased his speed and rushed up in one breath. When he stood at the peak of the mountain, Lu Chen looked down. The stairway he had walked was so long that he could not see the end. I actually made it. Then, Lu Chen shook his head helplessly. There were only 4 hours until he left the Emperor Heaven Immortal Palace. And in these few days, the only thing he had done was to climb this 10,000-meter stairway. Although his control of spirit energy was many times stronger than before, could he defeat Jiu at this level? Lu Chen did not care so much and turned to look at the top of the mountain. In front of him there was a stone tablet. Lu Chen walked over to take a look. 10,000 tribulations to Mount Sumeru, watching the wind and clouds rise. Is this really Mount Sumeru? Lu Chen was a little surprised. Didn't Taihao say that everyone's fortuitous encounters in the Sumeru realm were different? Who knew that he would actually arrive at Mount Sumeru, which was the most compatible with the Sumeru realm? Watching the wind and clouds rise, Lu Chen smiled and looked down the mountain. Standing at the top of the mountain, he could see clouds and mist lingering in the middle of the mountain. It was as if he was above a sea of clouds. Lu Chen suddenly felt comfortable and refreshed. Although I didn't get any opportunities, seeing this beautiful scenery is not a waste of a trip to Mount Sumeru. Lu Chen smiled. At this moment, he forgot all his troubles and only wanted to enjoy the majestic scenery in front of him. Lu Chen. Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. Lu Chen quickly turned around. The top of the mountain wasn't very big. It was just a small piece of flat land. When he first arrived here, he didn't see anything. How could there be anyone in this place? After turning around, Lu Chen did not see anyone. But that voice did not disappear. Congratulations on conquering the king of the mountains. Lu Chen frowned. Who are you? Ha ha ha, don't be nervous. I am Mount Meru beneath your feet. The deep voice laughed. Mount Meru. Lu Chen was a little surprised. The one speaking to him was actually the consciousness of Mount Meru? If it really was the consciousness of Mount Meru, Lu Chen had some questions that he wanted to ask it. Senior Taihao told me that everyone has different fortuitous encounters here. Why didn't I have any fortuitous encounters? Do you have any treasures here? Ha 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 ha, I don't know this Senior Taihao you speak of, but the immortal Emperor Meru realm does vary from person to person. The consciousness of Mount Meru said. Some people have obtained immortal techniques here, some have obtained ancient battle pets, some have improved their combat strength, and some have comprehended the intent realm. But didn't he tell you that there are also people who returned empty-handed? Lu Chen shook his head with a bitter smile. He didn't say, but I know now. He was the one who returned empty-handed. But then, Lu Chen smiled in relief. Actually, I didn't return empty-handed. I'm quite adept at spirit chi refinement. Although I can improve this through practice in the outside world, at least I've improved a lot. Besides, Lu Chen turned around and looked at a sea of clouds in the distance. I didn't come here in vain to see such a scenery. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect you to be such an open-minded person. The consciousness of Mount Meru laughed. Suddenly, Lu Chen saw an old man in white standing next to him. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being. He stood side by side with him with his hands behind his back, looking at the scenery in front of them. Lu Chen wasn't too shocked this time. The old man might be an illusion of Mount Meru. In short, it was fine as long as he didn't have any evil intentions. It was unavoidably lonely at the peak, so it was good to have someone to accompany him. This journey must be very difficult, the old man said faintly as he looked into the distance. Although it was just a simple sentence, it made Lu Chen's heart tremble. He even felt a little choked up in his throat. The Jiutian path had never been easy for him. Lu Chen took a deep breath and smiled. It's all right. The old man smiled and looked at Lu Chen. I'm talking about climbing the mountain. Lu Chen froze for a moment. It seemed that he was overthinking. I've been watching you climb the mountain. There are a total of 810,000 steps. But you didn't cross any of them. Lu Chen almost spat out blood. He could take 2 steps in 1 step? He was a person who liked to look for bugs the most, but he actually forgot about this. I was too focused on controlling my spirit chi and forgot. The old man laughed. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to be such an interesting person. However, in my opinion, it wasn't that you forgot, but that you didn't think about it. You thirsted to improve your strength in any environment. You didn't let go of any opportunity to become stronger, so you didn't think about how to reach the peak quickly. The old man stopped smiling. Lu Chen didn't deny this point. At that time, he really did want to improve his perception and control of spirit chi. Your spiritual energy refinement was originally not perfect, but with the help of the divine demon's heavenly eyes, you have finally stepped on the right track. After another 810,000 times of practice, Lu Chen, your spiritual energy refinement, has reached the peak of perfection in the first level. Lu Chen frowned. It's still only the first level? There's no qualitative change. Senior, how many levels are there in spirit chi refinement? Lu Chen asked again. 3 levels, Sumi said. The first level is Spirit Qi Refinement. Observe Spirit Qi Refinement. The second level is Spirit Qi. Observe Spirit Qi Refinement. The third level is Spirit Qi Refinement. Observe Spirit Qi Refinement. Of course, there should be a 4th level, but that's no longer within the scope of Spirit Qi Refinement. Spirit Qi Refinement isn't the ordinary Dao realm, but the Dao realm. Lu Chen frowned. Was the Dao realm of Spirit Qi Refinement that difficult? Lu Chen shook his head. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to reach the Dao realm this time. The old man smiled and didn't continue the topic. He suddenly said, Lu Chen, now that you're standing at the peak, let me ask you. If there's another mountain in front of you, will you continue to climb? Lu Chen didn't even think about it and said, yes. What if there's no end to Mount Meru? Lu Chen was surprised. No end? I don't believe it. As long as I keep going, I'll reach the peak. The old man nodded. As expected, you're also someone who doesn't like to rest in the middle. All right, then I'll tell you. You're now standing at the foot of Mount Meru. The old man said and waved his hand. For a moment, heaven and earth shook. Lu Chen hurriedly looked back. Behind him, the clouds dispersed, and an incomparably huge mountain appeared in front of him. The mountain shot straight into the sky. Even without the clouds, he still couldn't see the end. It was as if it went straight into the sky, like a god. The peak he was at was not even the tip of the iceberg in front of this huge mountain. It was so small that it could be ignored. This is the real Mount Meru. The old man smiled. Actually, this is your opportunity. It's up to you to grasp it. Chapter 1140. There should be something you want above the peak of Sumeru. In the last 4 hours, I will remove the restriction on your movement. As for whether you can reach the peak, it will depend on your own strength. Finishing speaking, Sumi disappeared in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen's eyes widened. It turned out that in the last 4 hours before leaving the immortal Emperor's Sumeru realm, his opportunity would truly appear. Without a doubt, now was the time to race against time. Lu Chen didn't have time to say goodbye to Sumi. With a rapid movement, he rushed to the front of Sumeru Mountain. The stone steps here would also sink, and the way of releasing spiritual energy was different on each step. However, after 810,000 times of practice, Lu Chen had already cultivated spiritual energy to the peak of perfection. Climbing the stairway to heaven now was truly a matter of course. Godly demon symbiosis. War god possession. Demon transformation. 3 lives reincarnation. Godly demon astral body. Lu Chen's figure climbed up at a speed so fast it was a blur. This time he didn't need to walk step by step. His figure was like a black mist, madly climbing up. Just after Lu Chen left, Sumi reappeared. Looking at Lu Chen's back, he smiled faintly. Lu Chen, you might not know, but after so many years, you are the first person to have the opportunity to take on this challenge. 810,000 steps, without crossing a single step. Your desire to become stronger in your heart is stronger than anyone else's. This is also the root of why you have been able to walk until today. Now Lu Chen was rapidly climbing. As he lifted his foot and landed, he could already quickly switch the circulation of spiritual energy in his body. Sumer Mountain. Lu Chen's eyes were about to split open. Step by step, in Lu Chen's eyes, the spiritual energy was exceptionally clear. 9 steps in the void. 7 stars chasing the moon. With only 4 hours left, he stood at the peak where he couldn't see the peak. There was no rest, not even a moment to breathe. Moreover, he couldn't make even a single mistake. If before was to hone his endurance and patience, then now was the ultimate test that combined all his comprehension, all his energy and physical strength. 1 hour, no end in sight. 2 hours, no end in sight. 3 hours, no end in sight. Last half an hour. Soul and body as one. Heavenly might of the gods and devils. The heavenly might of gods and demons was in a weakened state. As for soul body as one, it would take 3 days to recover for 10 minutes. Based on the current time, he would not be able to use soul body as one in the final battle of the immortal corpse tomb. But Lu Chen couldn't care less now. Lu Chen's speed suddenly increased. Every time he landed on the ground, He only needed to tap the ground and continue shooting upward. The time he used to do so was only a fraction of a second. In the last 10 minutes, Luqian was already hundreds of thousands of meters high. It was hard to imagine that a mountain could be hundreds of thousands of meters tall. The road ahead was still an endless staircase, but Luqian did not give up. He was still madly exerting his strength. In the sky above the clouds, Shumi Old Man had been watching every step of Luqian's climb. If you don't make a single mistake, then this is the benefit of 810,000 practice sessions. The seamless connection of skills is the experience of 100 battles. Then from start to finish, you never thought of giving up. This should be the result of your personality of never admitting defeat. Very good. Finally, someone can stand at the peak of Shumi and enjoy this magnificent scenery. Finished speaking, Shumi Old Man dissipated in the air. In the last 2 minutes, Luqian madly sprinted. And at this time, he finally saw the end of the hundreds of millions of steps. Am I almost there? Luqian's eyes were about to split open. He erupted with the last of his strength and rushed to the peak of Shumi in a single breath. Just as he reached the peak of Shumi, Luqian directly fell on the last step. Fortunately, the spiritual energy here was very abundant, allowing Luqian to quickly recover. Luqian raised his head with great effort and stood up shakily. He looked down the mountain and was immediately shocked by the scene before his eyes. Below the mountain was not the earth of some world, but the endless starry sky. It can't be that I've exceeded the atmosphere, right? Luqian was somewhat astonished, but on second thought, that was not right. He had felt gravity all the way, so it was impossible that he had really reached outer space. On the rocky flat ground at the peak of the mountain, there was also a stone tablet erected. Luqian staggered over. King of Mountains, Shumi Peak. In front of the stone tablet, there was a scroll. Cultivation method? Luqian grabbed the cultivation method and opened it to check. Unfortunately, this thing was not a cultivation method at all. There were only 8 words written on it. Does Lord know the truth of spirit? Suddenly, the huge Shumi mountain under Luqian's feet suddenly dissipated. Luqian directly floated in the river of stars. Luqian's eyes widened. Wait, could it be that Shumi Mountain did not exist at all? This so-called King of Mountains was just a manifestation of spiritual energy? Luqian's current shock could not be any greater. Just by relying on spiritual energy, he could create such a terrifying mountain. Could this be the truth of spirit? It turned out that the opportunity he had been looking for had always been under his feet, but he had not noticed it. Luqian, your time is up. The voice sounded again. Everything has spiritual energy. The Tao realm of spiritual energy involves the origin, and its power far surpasses that of ordinary Tao realm. Although you have only comprehended the second level of intent, you are definitely not inferior to ordinary Tao realm cultivators. Your fated battle is about to begin. Senior Shumi, Before Luqian could speak, he felt the world spin. When he opened his eyes again, he was already standing outside the small rundown house in the Celestial Emperor's Shumi realm. Nameless. Luqian had just come out when he found that Tai Hao and Tian Xian were waiting for him. Luqian, did you get any opportunities in the Celestial Emperor's Shumi realm? Tian Xian asked anxiously. Luqian's mind was still stuck, and he could not answer immediately. Tian Xian was even more anxious. During this period of time, the 6th heaven was completely different from 7 days ago. There were many hidden experts. Jiao had been cultivating for 7 months, and with the Purple Mountain Continent's star phenomenon, her strength was difficult to estimate. The Celestial Emperor's Shumi realm was Luqian's only chance. However, at first glance, Luqian did not seem to have changed much. Instead, his entire person was in a daze, and he did not seem to be in high spirits at all. How could Tian Xian not be anxious? Luqian, what happened? Tian Xian asked anxiously. What happened to you in the Shumi realm? Luqian said in a daze. I encountered it, but I don't think I encountered it. I have been climbing a mountain. The group almost vomited blood when they heard this. What the hell did he mean by climbing a mountain? Why climb a mountain in front of a great enemy? Tian Xian's face was full of anxiety, but Tai Hao stopped her. He looked at Luqian. Nameless, I see that you are not in a good state. You didn't use the dual heavenly might of gods and demons, did you? Lu Chen took a deep breath. I used it, but there is still half a day before the 7-day agreement. I can recover. However, I also use soul body as one. It seems that I can only fight Jiao with my true body. What? This? Tai Hao and Tian Xiner were shocked. He did not use soul body as one in the battle with Jiao. How could he fight? Chapter 1141. Lu Chen knew that they still had a lot of questions, but there was only half a day left before the 7 days deadline. It would take some time to go to the Immortal Master Tomb, so he had to leave now. Seeing that Lu Chen was about to leave, Tian Xiner grabbed Lu Chen's arm. Lu Chen looked back at her in surprise. Lu Chen, don't go. Tian Xiner's eyes reddened. Would he be able to come back if he went? Lu Chen smiled. I can't not go. Then Lu Chen looked at the small hand that was holding him tightly. Tai Hao hugged Tian Xiner. He knew that his daughter was too worried about Lu Chen. Tian Xiner's eyes were filled with tears. She knew that with Lu Chen's personality, he would definitely go back, but finally Tian Xiner let go. Lu Chen, you have to live. Lu Chen smiled. I'll do my best. Senior Tai Hao, thank you so much. If I can solve Jiao's problem, I'll come again to thank you. Senior Tai Hao, please send me back to Xingyuan continent now. After Lu Chen left, Tian Xiner looked at the empty teleportation gate and cried. Tai Hao walked over. Xiner, do you want to go and see? I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it. Tian Xiner couldn't bear it. After all, Lu Chen hadn't merged his soul and body, and he hadn't obtained any treasures in the immortal Emperor Meru realm. He had no chance of winning against Jiao. But even so, she still wanted to go and see. Father, I want to go. Tian Xiner said stubbornly. Tai Hao nodded. Okay, I'll take you there. Zhongxiange. Lu Chen walked out of the teleportation gate. Ma Bei and the others were already waiting. Nameless, you're back. Seeing Lu Chen appear, Ma Bei immediately went to greet him. How was it? Did the immortal emperor obtain any treasures in the Meru realm? Lu Chen shook his head. No, there's no time to talk about it. I have to go to the immortal master tomb. With that, Lu Chen jumped off the immortal island. Hey Nameless, wait for us. Ma Bei chased to the edge of the immortal trail mountain and saw Lu Chen's falling figure. Suddenly, a huge black dragon caught the rapidly falling Lu Chen and flew towards the immortal corpse mound. 10 wings. He advanced to 9 wings so quickly. He didn't even wait for us. After Ma Bei finished speaking, he ordered, let's go, it's about time. We have to go to the immortal corpse tomb. However, when the disciple summoned his mount, the 100-meter-long soaring serpent lay on the ground and refused to take off. Ma Bei, immortal king, my mount won't fly. The disciple was a little anxious. Everyone was waiting for his mount, but something had happened. Ma Bei thought for a while, and suddenly thought of something. He hurriedly tried to find Lu Chen's figure. However, 10 wings had only appeared for a moment when he caught Lu Chen. Now he was nowhere to be seen. No way, it's the supreme of mounts? Ma Bei was speechless. This guy had used a mount, but no one else could. That was too overbearing. Forget it, let's wait for a while. When Nameless is far away, the soaring serpent should be able to fly, Ma Bei said helplessly. At that moment, Lu Chen was still in a weakened state. However, after obtaining the heavenly eyes of the celestial demons, he only had 3 hours left in his weakened state. He could completely recover. There was still a long way to go to the immortal master tomb, so Lu Chen was not in a hurry. He patted 10 Wings' head. 10 Wings, you don't have to go too fast. Just get there within the agreed time. I need to comprehend what I learned in the mountain realm. Although 10 Wings had a bad temper, he always obeyed Lu Chen's words. He immediately slowed down. Lu Chen sat cross-legged and began to recall everything he had experienced in the mountain realm. It was not until the last moment that Lu Chen realized that Mount Meru was not a real mountain, so he needed to feel it again from the beginning. Lu Chen had already entered the state of anatta. 10 Wings continued to fly southwest with Lu Chen. There were more living people than dead people in the immortal corpse tomb today. There was already a sea of people here. The deans, mentors, and disciples of the major academies were all waiting here. The same was true for the Fenglai Academy. However, even the dean, Hundred Flowers, and the vice-deans Li Wei and Yao He had to stand behind an extremely beautiful woman. That woman was extremely beautiful and impeccable. Her temperament was elegant and calm. When she was around, even Li Wei and Yao He paled in comparison. She was calm and composed. Her eyes were so clear that they did not contain a trace of impurity. However, it made people feel intimidated. There were no emotional fluctuations in those eyes. There was no reluctance or concern. At that moment, a man from the elf clan walked up to her. "I didn't expect you to come too, Qingli." The man's tone was calm. "Wuchang, you're here. Why can't I come?" Qingli did not look at the man. She just said coldly. The man snorted. "The dark corrosion chaos set has been gathered. The stardust phenomenon has appeared. It seems that many people want to see the power of the legendary master devouring divine artifact. In addition, it's said that Nameless has gathered 6 pieces of the life-reversing divine demon set." Wu Chang smiled. Dark corrosion can find the set parts by feeling. In fact, it's not too difficult for dark corrosion to gather the dark corrosion chaos set. As for the life-reversing divine demon, I've never heard of anyone who could gather more than 3 pieces. It's just that 6 pieces of the life-reversing divine demon set is not as strong as the entire dark corrosion chaos set. In short, the battle between these 2 sets is really interesting. Qingli snorted. "Enough, don't talk to me about this. You and I both know that we came out for more than these 2 sets." Wu Chang sneered. "You misunderstood. I don't intend to hide anything. I'm just chatting with you. Sorry, I'm not in the mood to chat with you." Qingli was not polite at all. Wu Chang shrugged. "It's been a few hundred years. You haven't changed at all. You have the looks of a fairy, but you're just an iceberg. Forget it, forget it. I'll find someone else to chat with." Li Wei and Yao He looked at each other. Their sister was a super powerhouse. Why did they come out in full force this time? Since Qingli was already on the same path as them, they tried to ask her several times, but they were all shut out. It couldn't be helped. Ever since their sister was preparing for her tribulation, her feelings for them had become fainter and fainter. Perhaps in Qingli's eyes, other than knowing their names, they were not much different from other strangers. There were many people like Qingli and Wu Chang in the crowd. These people were all legendary figures. At this moment, they all appeared and gathered here. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There was only half an hour left before the appointed time. A torch dragon flew across the sky with a purple candle in its mouth. Wherever it passed, the world was filled with purple light. "It's the Purple Sky Palace." The crowd suddenly became restless. Dark Corrosion Geo, really collected the entire Dark Corrosion Chaos set? It's unbelievable. To be able to collect a full set of this level in the 6th heaven is simply unheard of. I wonder how strong she is. This time, we can finally know what the star vision is all about. Almost all the members of the Demonic Academy were present. At this moment, Yi Fan looked at the torch dragon in the sky and clenched his fists tightly. His enemy was on that torch dragon. However, at this moment, Yi Fan had to temporarily put down his hatred, because he was more worried about the safety of another person. Dean. Chapter 1142. 2 people jumped down from the torch dragon. One of them was wearing a purple robe and a golden crown. He was burly. It was Purple Knight Tianzi. The other was a human. She wore a purple robe with silver patterns. Her beautiful face carried an evil aura. Dark Shurjior is different from before. A sea of clouds noticed at a glance and said worriedly, "In just 7 days she has changed so much. The evil aura on her is dozens of times stronger than before. That Shurjior should be a 6-star or 7-star human king now, right? Just looking at her now makes me feel a little nervous," said Etian. 6 or 7-star. I'm afraid she's already a 9-star. A sea of clouds said. The feeling she gives off now is too different from the first time I saw her. I think the rumors might be true. She really has obtained the Dark Erosion Chaotic set. Purple Knight Tianzi walked to the front of the School of Gods and Demons and glanced at the crowd. Finally his eyes fell on Yi Fan. Yi Fan, we meet again. But this time, no one can protect you. Yi Fan looked at Purple Knight Tianzi coldly. He wanted to kill this guy. However, Yi Fan was calm. He knew that now was not the time to attack. Where's Nameless? Purple Knight Tianzi deliberately raised his voice. He's not here yet. Is he running away? Xiao Zhan could not help but curse. Our dean is afraid of you? Stop dreaming. Purple Knight Tianzi smiled. I didn't say he's afraid of me. He's afraid of my Purple Sky Palace disciple Jiu. With that, Purple Knight Tianzi looked at the woman behind him. Dark Jiu narrowed her eyes and said coldly, whether Nameless comes or not, I'll slaughter everyone in the school of gods and demons. How arrogant. A Sea of Clouds said coldly. You have no right to talk to me. Dark Jiu did not care about A Sea of Clouds at all. Hurry up and tell Nameless to come out. I can't wait to kill him. How dare you speak to my martial uncle of A Sea of Clouds like that? Xiao Zhan said angrily. Chu Tian stopped Xiao Zhan, who was about to make a move, and signaled him not to be impulsive. Don't you know the principal's character? I believe that he will definitely come. Xiao Zhan calmed down. If he got angry now, it meant that he didn't trust the dean. However, Jiu was not someone to be trifled with. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. You're all about to die. I'm already thinking highly of you by talking to you. Purple Knight Emperor said loudly. I've already given Nameless 7 days, but he doesn't dare to show himself now. Tell Nameless to come out, or I'll kill your demonic academy's disciples one by one. Let's see if Nameless will come out. Just as the Purple Knight Emperor was shouting angrily, a white robe suddenly flashed in front of the people of the God Devil Sacred Courtyard. Purple Knight Son of Heaven saw this person's movement skill, and knew that this person was an expert. When he looked again, Purple Knight Son of Heaven could not help but be surprised. It was actually the master of the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace, Tai Hao. Tai Hao said calmly, Purple Knight, there's still more than 10 minutes until the agreed time. Why are you in such a hurry? Or are you afraid of Nameless, so you want to make a move while he's not here? Purple Knight Emperor snorted. Tai Hao, you're quite free. You actually have time to care about the matters of the God Devil's Sacred Courtyard. Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble by helping them like this? Tai Hao calmly said. You don't have to worry about my matters. However, you're wrong about one thing. I just happened to hear about your 7-day agreement. Since you've already agreed on the time, if you want to make a move ahead of time, not only me, I'm afraid others will think that you're not keeping your word. Many people around began to discuss. That's right. It's not even time to kill. The Purple Sky Palace is indeed too overbearing. Since we've already agreed on the time of the battle, then follow the time. Otherwise, you're not keeping your word. Even Tai Hao spoke up for the God Devil's Sacred Courtyard, and what he said was the truth. For a moment, everyone present was condemning the Purple Sky Palace. Purple Knight Emperor narrowed his eyes slightly. In terms of influence, his Purple Sky Palace was definitely not comparable to the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace. If Tai Hao stood up, others would easily follow suit. There were many super experts present. If this continued, it would be disadvantageous for him. He didn't want to establish an image of someone who didn't keep his word. After thinking about it, Purple Knight Emperor snorted coldly. I was just trying to force Nameless out. I naturally won't break the agreed time. Isn't it just a quarter of an hour? Alright, we've already waited for 7 days. We don't mind waiting for him for another 15 minutes. Purple Knight found a way out for himself, and didn't continue to make things difficult for the God Devil's Sacred Courtyard. Returning to the Torch Dragon, Purple Knight Emperor was furious. He stared at Tai Hao and said through gritted teeth, Tai Hao, don't look at how arrogant you are now. In the future, I'll make you kneel down and beg for mercy. Purple Knight and the others returned to the Torch Dragon. A Sea of Clouds Tian cupped his fists and said to Tai Hao, Thank you, Senior Tai Hao. Tai Hao smiled slightly. It's just a small matter. I'm afraid my Emperor Heaven Immortal Palace won't be able to interfere in the future. A Sea of Clouds nodded. It was already rare for others to speak up for them. He couldn't expect the Emperor Heaven Immortal Palace to risk their lives for the God Devil's Sacred Courtyard. After all, their relationship wasn't that close. Senior Tai Hao, didn't the dean come with you? A sea of clouds said. Tai Hao shook his head. He left before us. He was triggered by the Zhongxiangu. He was also on a different path from us. I don't know why he hasn't arrived yet. But Ma Bei and the others are all here. Yi Tian said doubtfully. He walked over to the Zhongxiangu and asked. The news he received was that Nameless had left before them. He didn't know why he hadn't arrived yet. That's strange. Has no one seen John Doe along the way? Just when everyone was confused about the situation. In the sky, the huge torch dragon suddenly descended rapidly and stopped in the cemetery. What's going on with the Purple Heaven Palace? A sea of clouds looked in that direction in surprise. He saw the torch dragon lowering its head to the ground. No matter how its master ordered it, it refused to take off. When Ma Bei saw this scene, he suddenly felt that it was somewhat familiar. After thinking carefully, he slapped his forehead. I know. Ah. Ma Bei, Immortal King, what's going on? Ma Bei raised his head and looked above the clouds. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Nameless is here. In the sky, a black shadow blocked the sunlight. Everyone looked up and saw a huge dragon circling in the sky. On the dragon's head, a man in a black robe with golden patterns stood on the dragon's head. When Li Wei saw that man, her heart was in a mess. That was Lu Chen's strongest mount in the sixth heaven, the 10-winged sky dragon. Even if the torch dragon saw it, it wouldn't dare to fly in front of a king. Qingli narrowed her eyes slightly. 10 wings? How did this guy get it? Li Wei, Yao He, the man on the dragon's head, is nameless? Li Wei was just about to speak when she heard Yao He's reply. Sister, who else would be so arrogant other than him? That's right, he's Lu Chen, also nameless, also solipsistic. Chapter 1143. With a furious roar, 10-winged actually roared at Torch Dragon, causing it to tremble in fear. Everyone found it even harder to imagine. The battle between Nameless and Purple Sky Palace had yet to begin. But 10-winged had already suppressed Torch Dragon to the point that it could not even lift its head. Purple Night Emperor was so angry that his entire body trembled. Damn it, beast! How dare you show weakness to the enemy? With that, he directly cut off Torch Dragon's head. One had to admit that Purple Night Emperor was also a ruthless person. Mounts were generally not used as battle pets, so the strength of a mount was directly determined by its bloodline. Torch Dragon did not want to show weakness, but in front of 10-winged, it was still inferior. Whether it was 9-winged or 10-winged, there were many mounts that submitted. This was the first mount that was directly killed because of this. A purple-robed envoy behind Purple Knight felt his heart ache. The palace master was angry and killed his own mount. You don't feel bad, do you? Torch Dragon was already very difficult to deal with. Of course, he only dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. On 10-winged Sky Dragon, Lu Chen patted 10-winged's head. 10-winged, we're here. I'm going down. With that, Lu Chen put away 10-winged, opened his blood demon skeletal wings, and flew to the Demonic Academy's camp. Nameless. Dean. Dad. Lu Chen looked at these family and friends and smiled slightly. Sorry to have made you worry. I wanted to meditate on the way, and delayed some time. Since Lu Chen was here, everyone naturally did not care about this matter. Nameless, have you seen Jiaoer? It feels like she's completely different from 7 days ago. Dean, are you confident? Dad, I'll help you this time. Lu Chen patted the little beast's head. No need, I'm enough. Tai Hao looked at Lu Chen in surprise. He had only been separated from Lu Chen for 12 hours. Why did it feel like Lu Chen had become a different person? When he had first come out of the Immortal Emperor's Meru realm, he had been in a daze. But now, the calm Lu Chen had returned. Nameless, did you really not get any treasures in the Immortal Palace's mountain realm? Also, have you thought of a way to deal with Jiao? After all, you don't have soul-body fusion anymore. What? Everyone was shocked when they heard Tai Hao say that Lu Chen didn't fuse with his soul. Lu Chen looked at Tai Hao. Senior Tai Hao, you're here too. It's true that I didn't obtain any treasures, but I did gain some insights. Let's talk about the specifics after this battle. Following this, Lu Chen looked at the others and smiled as he said, Don't ask so many questions. I'm here to fight, not to answer questions. Tai Hao hurriedly said, Okay, we were rude. Everyone, don't ask anymore. The war is imminent. Nameless needs to focus on the enemy. Everyone could only suppress their curiosity. As soon as Lu Chen turned around, he saw a sharp gaze passing through the crowd and landing directly on himself. He followed the gaze and felt a slight pain in his heart. This was no longer the girl who had sat on the cliff with him to admire the sunset. Now Jiaoer's eyes were ferocious and filled with killing intent. The two of them walked toward the center of the open space at the same time. The two of them stood facing each other. Jiaoer's eyes were filled with killing intent, while Lu Chen's eyes were filled with gentleness. Jiaoer, Lu Chen called out softly. I'm not Jiao, Jiaoer said coldly. I've completely taken over her consciousness. Lu Chen sighed. It's my fault. I didn't stop you in time. Stop me? Don't be naive. This is her own choice. For Taiwu planet, she chose to sacrifice herself and become fertilizer for me. She was willing to be devoured by me. No, that wasn't her choice. Lu Chen said in a low voice. Whether it's for Mu Xian or Jiao, or I will kill you and save Jiao, or kill me. Jiao laughed. Ha 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 ha. I'm afraid you don't know what kind of terrifying existence you're facing right now. So what if you have the life reversal divinity? I'll still tear you to pieces. You seem to hate me even more than the first time we met. Lu Chen frowned. There must be something that made you vent your anger on me. I'm guessing it must be because you couldn't completely erase Jiaoer's consciousness. That's why you're so angry. Nonsense. Jiaoer has disappeared. I'm Jiaoer, Jiaoer said angrily. Lu Chen smiled. It seems so. Otherwise, why would you be so angry now? Didn't I hit the nail on the head? Jiaoer suddenly realized she'd been tricked. If it was Lu Chen's guess before, then her performance had undoubtedly helped Lu Chen prove his conjecture. Jiaoer adjusted her emotions. If she was too angry, it would be disadvantageous for the upcoming battle. There were only a few minutes until noon. She needed to adjust her state. I heard you cultivated in the immortal Emperor Meru realm for 5 days? Unfortunately, compared to the astral illusory formation, you're far too weak. Jiaoer smiled. I defeated opponents stronger than you in the astral illusory formation, and honed myself in actual combat. After 7 months of cultivation, I'm already a peak 9-star king. Not to mention the opportunities I've obtained. That's something you don't even dare to think about. Nameless, tell me, what right do you have to kill me? So powerful. Lu Chen nodded. Thinking of his own experience, he couldn't help but feel ashamed. Sai, compared to you, I'm much worse. I had no opponent, no time to cultivate. I climbed the mountain for 5 days. Climbed the mountain for 5 days? Ha ha ha, Nameless, you can't be so naive as to think you can beat me by climbing the mountain, right? Lu Chen pursed his lips. Who knows? Behind Lu Chen, the God-fiend disciples were on the verge of collapse. Xiao Zhang couldn't care less about seniority. He tugged at Tai Hao's sleeve. Senior Tai Hao, is what the dean said true? He climbed the mountain for 5 days in the immortal Emperor Meru realm? Tai Hao sighed. When he first came out, he told me he had been climbing the mountain. He even used the God-fiend's heaven's might and soul body as one. He can't be lying to us. Chu Tian was speechless. His opponent had crazily increased his strength. And the dean had gone to another place to climb the mountain. Did the dean have some misunderstanding about closed-door cultivation? Yi Fan frowned. How could a normal mountain climb use the God-fiend's heaven's might and soul body as one? I think this is suspicious. Senior Tai Hao, could it be that climbing the mountain has a special effect in the immortal palace Meru realm? Yi Fan's words reminded Tai Hao, but he still shook his head. Everyone has different fortuitous encounters in the Meru realm. However, from the historical records of the Meru realm, no one has ever mentioned a fortuitous encounter like climbing a mountain. Your dean should be the only one who has experienced such a fortuitous encounter. Meru realm. Wu Xian thought for a moment, then suddenly had an epiphany. Doesn't Meru realm mean the king of mountains? His words woke everyone up from their daze. Only then did everyone react. Climbing a mountain? It would be fine if it was anywhere else, but in the Meru realm, if it was that mountain, didn't it mean that the dean had entered the most origin of the Meru realm? Thinking of this, everyone looked at the person on the field and suddenly realized that they had been fooled. That guy actually encountered the origin of the Meru realm? Damn it. I should have asked him if he had climbed to the top. Taihao said regretfully. However, there was no time to ask any more questions. It was already noon. Chapter 1144. Large dark clouds had already covered the scorching midday sun, and the sky was dark. Inside the immortal corpse mound, a cold wind howled, as if countless souls were secretly watching the upcoming battle. With a loud boom, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the land. Perhaps it was an illusion, but someone saw many afterimages in the sky, their silhouettes resembling human figures. Qingli squinted her eyes. She had also noticed the afterimages in the sky. Could it be that the experts from beyond the heavens are also here to watch? She was not sure, but now was not the time to worry about this. The fated battle between the Dark Corrosion Chaotic set and the Fiend God Heaven-Defying set, the battle between Jiu-Er and the Solipsistic set, was about to begin. Jiu-Er seemed to have been waiting for this moment for a long time. Lu Chen was right. She wanted to kill him even more than the first time she saw Lu Chen. Primordial heavenly sovereign body. Jiu-Er roared, spiritual energy erupted from her body, and a giant god's afterimage appeared behind her. Dark Corrosion 9 souls. Around Jiu-Er a black, smoke-like shadow wrapped around her, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Dark Corrosion mystical Een. Jiu-Er's form changed. Her hair was twice as long as before, dark purple in color. Her eyes were suffused with purple mist, and a dark purple 9-star pattern appeared on her forehead. Lu Chen looked at Jiu-Er's transformation indifferently, especially after seeing her use the Dark Corrosion mystical Een. His brows furrowed. Dark Corrosion mystical Een was similar to the 9 transformations of Fiend God, but it relied on the mystical Een dark body, and Jiu-Er had the mystical Een dark body. Because of this, she was chosen to raise Dark Corrosion. Jiu-Er, why didn't you tell me earlier? Lu Chen sighed. Obviously, this battle was unavoidable. I will definitely save you. Lu Chen nodded, his eyes emitting green mist. Fiend God symbiosis. Lu Chen roared, his hair dyed white, and spiritual energy erupted. Jiu-Er snickered. Fiend God heaven-defying, I finally found you. Dark Corrosion world annihilating wheel. Jiu-Er slowly pulled out 2 crescent blades from the void. When the Dark Corrosion world annihilating wheel appeared, everyone's weapons began to vibrate, as if they sensed the arrival of an expert. Dark Corrosion world annihilating wheel. I can't control my amber longbow. That's a real divine artifact. It said that it was born from the primordial chaos world. Heavens, Jiu-Er's. Jiu-Er laughed even more wildly. Where's your limitless Fiend God sword? Take it out. I've been waiting for this battle for thousands of years. I can't wait anymore. Jiu-Er Fiend God annihilating wheel Niof Fiend. Of use annihilating of. Fiend God annihilation of Ling wheel? Fide. What kind of excuse was that? Not only did Jiu-Er suffer internal injuries, but a sea of clouds, Yi Fan and the others also vomited blood. Dean, can you not make such a joke at a time like this? Lu Chen remained unmoved. With a flick of his finger, a silver spear appeared in the void, hovering in front of Lu Chen. I will fight you with silver guts. Jiu-Er narrowed her eyes, purple mist rolling out of her eyes. How dare you look down on me? I will make you pay the price. Dark Corrosion doppelganger. Jiu-Er instantly split into 9. Doppelganger? Someone uses doppelganger in a battle between experts? Rong-Er looked at Jiu-Er in surprise. You should be able to see through it easily. No. Li Wei's eyes flashed with pink light, then widened. These 9 doppelganger are so strange. They are all illusions. There is no real body. What? Rong-Er's face was full of disbelief. How can there be no real body? Li Wei frowned. I don't know, now we can only see how Nameless will deal with it. Lu Chen also frowned slightly. Every doppelganger of the Dark Corrosion doppelganger had unique characteristics, somewhat similar to the Buddha doppelganger, but the Buddha doppelganger was the real body, while the Dark Corrosion doppelganger was all doppelganger. The real body disappeared? How could he fight then? He could only be beaten. This is the Dark Corrosion Chaotic Set skill? Interesting. Lu Chun snorted. At this moment, the 9 doppelganger quickly surrounded Lu Chun. Dark Corrosion Ghostly Steps. A doppelganger flashed and moved, shooting toward Lu Chun. So fast. A sea of clouds' eyes widened. It's faster than King of Hell. Not good, Dean dodge. Dark Corrosion Apocalypse, Sea-Splitting Sky. Lu Chun tried to dodge, but found that the surrounding space had been locked, and a spiritual energy wall restricted his movement. While attacking, it restricted the opponent's movement. It seemed that the Dark Corrosion Chaotic Set was indeed extraordinary. However, Lu Chun was different from before. After merging with the celestial demon's heavenly eyes, he could already see Jiao'er's figure. Facing this sea-splitting sky, Lu Chun was ready to face it head-on. But at this moment, Lu Chun suddenly felt a spiritual energy fluctuation behind him. No, the attack is coming from behind. Lu Chun immediately turned around and shouted, Void Attack, Spear Path, Empyrean Spear. Why is the Dean attacking from behind? Xiao Zhan's eyes widened. The enemy was clearly in front of him, but he ignored the enemy in front of him? However, before anyone could answer him, there was a sudden loud bang, and the two powerful skills collided instantly. After the violent spiritual energy collision, a violent spiritual energy exploded outward. The ground with Lu Chun as the center instantly cracked, and a fierce wind roared out, and the surrounding people had to raise their spiritual energy shields to block it. What's going on? Xiao Zhan tried hard to watch the battle in the field. At this moment, Lu Chun and one of Jiao'er's clones were both knocked back 100 meters. This also meant that the Dean's judgment was correct. The real attack came from behind. After Lu Chun was knocked back, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The spiritual energy shock just now was too strong. For Lu Chun, who was fighting with his original body, he was just a mere 1-star Emperor Xiao. After all, the strength of his physical body was far inferior. On the other side, when Jiao'er's clone was knocked back, 9 black shadows wrapped around her body. Although she was also knocked back, when the black shadows dispersed, she was not injured at all. The two of them used super powerful killing moves for the first time, but Lu Chun was already at a disadvantage. The 9 clones surrounded Lu Chun again. Nameless, you're just SOSO. One of the clones laughed contemptuously. Lu Chun wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said indifferently, Dark Corrosion Clone, it looks like a clone, but it's actually a chaotic space attack method. It's really powerful. You don't need to say that. Your life reversal god is no match for mine. Lu Chun smiled slightly. Unfortunately, didn't I see through it? If that's all you have, then you can't beat me. Can't win. Jiao'er's eyes burned with anger. Fine, I'd like to see how long you can be so stubborn. Chapter 1145. That was just a small demonstration. Now, I'll let you have a taste of the true power of the Dark Erosion Doppelganger. Dark Erosion Doppelganger, 9-headed snakelet chaos. Dark Erosion Apocalypse, sea-splitting sky. Dark Erosion Jiao'er growled, and the 4 doppelgangers attacked at the same time. She had split the attack into 4 parts. The attacks from these 4 directions all caused spatial disorder. Every attack seemed to come from the front, but Lu Chun could clearly feel the spiritual energy fluctuations in other directions. Logically speaking, as long as Lu Chun could determine the direction of the attack, he could block it. However, at this moment, the other 5 doppelgangers also moved. When the 9 doppelgangers attacked at the same time, Lu Chun had already sensed that something was wrong. The attacks of the 9 doppelgangers changed rapidly. He could not even determine which direction the 4 attacks would come from until the last moment. This was equivalent to constantly using the triple door to change the direction of the attack during the attack. Wu Chong narrowed his eyes slightly. That Dark Erosion has already pushed the spatial attack to the extreme. The attacks are constantly changing, and there's no way to block them. In addition, the 9-headed snakelet doppelganger has restricted nameless movements. This attack will definitely hit. An old man next to him frowned. If it were me, how would I deal with it? Damn it, the attacks are changing too quickly. Even with spiritual energy, I can't completely capture the direction of the attack. I can't even think of a way to deal with it. I didn't expect dark erosion to be so strong. While everyone was still worrying about how to deal with it, Lu Chen had already moved. Just as the other party was about to attack, Lu Chen saw the opportunity and moved forward instead of retreating. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Void Guard. Lu Chen accurately found the other party's 3 attacks and blocked them with Void Guard. This Nameless actually went forward? Damn it, how could I forget that this could be done? The old man's eyes widened. Tianxian, it's not that you forgot, it's that you never thought of it. Wu Chong said. In that situation, Nameless could still accurately capture the other party's attack. This is something even I can't do. Since the opponent's attacks are constantly changing, instead of waiting for her to attack, why don't we meet her head-on? The moment we lock onto the opponent's true attack, we should block it. That's the only solution. However, this requires an extremely strong ability to observe spiritual energy, as well as extraordinary courage. Wu Chong narrowed his eyes slightly. That kid's spiritual energy has already reached the peak of perfection. However, the opponent had 4 attacks. After Lu Chen blocked the 3 attacks, he didn't stop. 9 Void Steps. Buddha Body Clone. Attacking the Void. Way of the Spear. Empyrean Spear. The 3 doppelgangers attacked at the same time, stabbing towards one of the doppelgangers. The doppelganger revealed a look of shock. She didn't expect Lu Chen to find her so accurately. In a hurry, the clone hurriedly made a move, and the 2 powerful moves collided. However, this time, Lu Chen directly used the Buddha Body Clone, which was equivalent to 3 times the attack. Jiaoer's clone was actually unable to resist this spiritual power collision. The 9 neonates' confusion was immediately crushed. The tip of the silver gallbladder spear emitted a fiery red glow as it pierced straight towards the avatar's heart. At this moment, the black shadow behind Jiao wrapped around the position of her heart in time. The tip of the spear directly pressed against the black shadow as if it was piercing steel. Lu Chen didn't stop his attack and continued to exert force. The tip of the silver gallbladder spear rubbed against the armor formed by the black shadow on Jiaoer's chest. Break for me. Spearway Shatter Stars. Lu Chen directly activated the skill, and a new round of spiritual power surged from the tip of the spear. With 2 cracking sounds, the sturdy black shadow directly split open. The Hellfire Silver Gallbladder went straight into the doppelganger's heart. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked to the point of being dumbfounded. This can't be. She was in a desperate situation just a moment ago, and in the blink of an eye, she became the key to turning the situation around? Tianxian's eyes widened. 3 defenses and 1 attack, all in one go. Wu Chong frowned. This Nameless is impeccable whether it's combat experience or mentality. Although many people think that the Dark Corrosion Chaos is on par with the incomplete Divine Demon against the heavens, the Dark Corrosion Chaos will only choose its master. The master chosen by the Divine Demon against the heavens is indeed extraordinary. Qingli narrowed her eyes slightly. Liwei Yaohe, are you really familiar with Nameless? Why would a powerhouse of his level be with you? Liwei and Yaohe were a little embarrassed, but it was no wonder. After all, Qingli no longer treated them as her younger sisters, so she naturally wouldn't care about their feelings. He's not usually like this. Liwei could only answer like this. How is he usually? A little dull. Yaohe answered truthfully. Although Lu Chen had pierced through a doppelganger, no one thought that the battle was over. After all, it was just a doppelganger. At this time on the battlefield, Dark Corrosion Jiaoer's doppelganger looked at Lu Chen in shock. You, how dare you block my attack? Lu Chen put away the doppelganger and looked at Dark Corrosion Jiaoer indifferently. You divided the sea-splitting sky into 4, which greatly reduced the attack power of a single attack. On the other hand, my Void Guard specialized in all kinds of fancy tricks, so of course I dared to block it. Although the Dark Corrosion doppelganger is an illusory doppelganger, I noticed that the doppelganger has the characteristics of the original body when it makes a move, so the only way to break your Dark Corrosion doppelganger is to attack when you make a move. I just didn't expect the Dark Corrosion doppelganger's defense to be so high, so I had to add a temporary skill to break through your doppelganger. Dark Corrosion, I've already seen through your doppelganger. If that's all you've got, you can't beat me. Lu Chen said indifferently. Although Dark Corrosion Jiu wanted to kill Lu Chen couldn't hate her at all. There was no killing intent in his eyes, only regret. And the regret in Lu Chen's eyes made Dark Corrosion Jiu even angrier. Nameless only had Jiu in his eyes, not Dark Corrosion. The doppelganger dissipated and Dark Corrosion Jiu reappeared not far away. The purple mist in her eyes grew thicker. Nameless, I'm going to kill you. Thank you for telling me the secret of the emptiness of God's and demons' arm. In that case, I'll let you taste the true power of Dark Corrosion Chaos. Dark Corrosion Jiu's body exploded with terrifying spiritual energy. Dark clouds covered the sky, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The ground cracked, and the rocks on the ground slowly rose into the air. The entire immortal corpse mound seemed to have turned into hell on earth. Let's see if your Void Guard can block this move of mine. Jiu's voice became shrill and crazy. In the distance, Purple Knight Son of Heaven saw this scene, and his blood boiled with excitement. It's coming, it's coming. It's that move. Jiu used this move to defeat the strongest illusion in the Star Sky illusion realm. Let these mortals tremble. Let them see your true strength. Let everyone know the ultimate killing move of the Dark Corrosion Chaos 9-piece set. Quickly kill Nameless. Dark Corrosion Jiu slowly rose into the air, like a demoness descending to the world. Chapter 1146. What a strong spiritual chi. Not good, everyone back off. A sea of clouds shouted. Everyone watching the battle retreated, leaving only a few dozen super cultivators standing in place. Qing Li, Wu Chang, Tianxian, and the others were all watching Jiu in the air. She's already collected the Dark Corrosion Chaotic set. How many people haven't collected this set? Dark Corrosion's ultimate move. Just the spiritual chi's aftermath is earth-shattering. I'm curious how she managed to collect the Dark Corrosion Chaotic set at the 6th heaven. This isn't the strength of a technique at the 6th heaven. Nameless can't take this move. Speaking of which, Jiu has already broken through the heavenly illusion? This guy's strength is really terrifying. Jiu's eyes were filled with madness. She looked at Lu Chen, and all the anger in her heart exploded at this moment. Jiu of Wood Mansion, I still can't control you completely. I've killed hundreds of Lu Chen's illusions, but you still haven't given up. Are you still having illusions in your heart? Sorry, I'm going to shatter all your illusions now. I'm going to plunge you into endless despair. Immortal Technique, Dark Corrosion Jiutian. Everyone was frightened by the name of this technique. Did I hear wrong? Immortal Technique. Mabe was petrified. How can a 6th heaven immortal technique come from? How can a mortal use an immortal technique? Has she already become an immortal? Tai Hao frowned. Strictly speaking, Jiu isn't immortal. The Dark Corrosion set shouldn't have been collected at the 6th heaven, so it's possible that she used this move. But I'm worried about how Nameless will deal with it. That's an immortal technique. Tian Xian was so nervous that she couldn't breathe. She didn't say a word until now. At this moment, she clasped her hands in front of her chest, tightly holding a jade pendant. Her eyes were red as she muttered, Lu Chen, you must win, you must win. Although she didn't know how Lu Chen was going to win, she didn't want to think too much. She only had one thought, and that was to hope that Lu Chen could survive. In the Demonic Academy, everyone's hearts were hanging by a thread. Immortal Arts. It's actually an immortal technique. Oh my god. This has already exceeded the strength of a 6th heavenly layer. Dean, Dad, what are you waiting for? Let me go. The little beast said anxiously. On the battlefield, Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Immortal techniques? How powerful would the legendary immortal technique be? Would he be able to withstand this attack? Heavenly might of the gods and demons. Lu Chen immediately used the monster army's attributes. Dragon god form. Demonic lotus heart. Inner demon. He was only missing the godly devil astral body. This was already Lu Chen's strongest state. The silver gallbladder in his hand was trembling slightly. As a demigod item, the silver gallbladder was braver than most demigod items. However, in the end, the Dark Erosion World exterminating will suppress the silver gallbladder in terms of level. Furthermore, The opponent was using an immortal technique. The silver gallbladder would inevitably feel immense pressure. Lu Chen looked at the silver gallbladder. He wasn't angry but smiled gently. Silver gallbladder, are you nervous too? Don't forget that your previous master was also a man who stood at the peak of a sixth heavenly layer. Although the immortal technique is strong, but... Lu Chen's eyes flashed with a rare arrogance. I'm stronger. This was probably the first time Lu Chen said that he was strong. His purpose wasn't to show off, but to restore the silver gallbladder's confidence. The silver gallbladder seemed to have felt Lu Chen's fighting spirit. It instantly stabilized, and its body shone brightly. Lu Chen smiled slightly. All right, silver gallbladder. Even if I'm immortal and you're a demigod item, so what? I'm going to take this so-called immortal technique head-on. A mortal's body, a demigod item, can also break the heavens. What? Nameless, he's going to take this immortal technique head-on. Taihao, a sea of clouds, Yitian Mabe Hixing, and even Qingli Wuchang, and Tianxian couldn't believe their ears. A mortal's body was going to fight an immortal. Is that guy crazy? A sea of clouds couldn't help but say fiercely. At this moment, Jiao flipped the dark erosion world exterminating wheel in her hands, forming a ring. Then between heaven and earth, a purple light shot out from Jiao Er's dark erosion world exterminating wheel like an aurora towards Lu Chen. It's coming. Lu Chen's nostrils flared and his face was ferocious. Celestial demon astral body. Tiger descends the mountain. Sky-piercing spear. Then a huge silver spear appeared around Lu Chen. It turned into a white light and shot directly towards the light beam. The two ultimate moves, one in the sky and one on the ground, collided violently. The earth trembled. Everyone felt the ground shake violently when the skills collided. The ground within a kilometer radius around Lu Chen directly shattered. Then Lu Chen and the silver spear phantom were directly swallowed by the purple light. Not only did the purple light swallow the silver spear, but it also hit the ground, and a deep hole with the same diameter as the light beam instantly appeared on the ground. It was as if it wanted to pierce through Lu Chen along with the earth's core. Jiao didn't retract her strength, and the dark erosion Jiaotian continued to pierce through the ground. Seeing this, Dark Emperor laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, Nameless, you really overestimated yourself. You're dead now. No one can stop me from now on. Perhaps because she used too much strength, the jade pendant in Tian Xian, Er's hand shattered. Seeing the jade pendant shatter, Tian Xian felt her heart shatter along with it. The jade pendant couldn't protect Lu Chen. Li Wei's body went limp. Fortunately, Yao He caught her in time, preventing her from falling. Sister. Lu Chen Li Wei's eyes were filled with tears as she said weakly, is he dead? Yao He's eyes were red, and she didn't know how to answer. At this moment, Principal Bai Ling suddenly said, Look, what's that? Yao He and Li Wei hurriedly looked at the purple light beam. Principal, what did you say? What are you looking at? You two are really too much. Both of you have the heavenly fox bloodline, but why can't you see it more clearly than me? Look inside the purple light beam. Bai Ling said anxiously, but her eyes didn't leave the battlefield for a moment. The two hurriedly looked at the battlefield. At this moment, if one looked closely at the purple light beam, they would see that in the center of the purple light beam, there was a silver ray going against the flow. If one looked closely, it wasn't difficult to see that the silver ray was the silver gallbladder phantom. At this moment, the silver ray was inside the dark erosion Jiaotian, quickly going against the flow like a hot knife through butter. Nameless isn't dead yet. Li Wei and Yao He's eyes widened, and their hearts rekindled with hope. Yi Fan stared at the silver ray. How is that possible? If I'm not wrong, it's the imperceptible spiritual aura. Taihao suddenly said. Imperceptible spiritual aura? Yi Fan frowned. Yes, but it's not the imperceptible spiritual aura that we understand, Taihao said. Nameless spiritual aura is sharper and more substantial. I don't think the silver gallbladder phantom is a simple phantom, but a spiritual energy spear, formed by spiritual aura. Although the dark erosion Jiaotian's spiritual aura is fierce, it's like a raging sea pouring out. No matter how fierce it is, it can't destroy a rock that leads to the center unless it's hit from the waist. The second level of the imperceptible spiritual aura is to observe the spiritual aura as it is, and use the spiritual aura as one wishes. If one can master it, his spiritual aura will be different from that of ordinary people. Naturally, the power of the same move would be completely different. Yi Fan looked at the principal in shock. The principal's imperceptible spiritual aura had reached such an incredible level. Chapter 1147. Seeing this scene, everyone, even those hidden experts, couldn't help but be shocked to the point that their eyes were wide open and their mouths were agape. This is Cloud Forest truth. No, impossible. Wu Chang was no longer as calm as before, already speaking incoherently. Even true immortals can't make their spiritual energy materialize. Tian Xian couldn't help but look at Wu Chang. Just now you said I was making a fuss over nothing, now you can't even speak clearly. Wu Chang opened his mouth. You didn't see? Spirit channeling truth. That's a concept stronger than ordinary Dao realm. This is only the 6th layer. What kind of monster is nameless? Qing Fu's eyes widened. It's the 2nd layer of spiritual energy, spirit channeling truth. True immortals might not have their own Dao realm, and Xiumi Old Man once said that spirit channeling truth was harder to comprehend than Yunzhang Dao realm, and its power was more terrifying. It was obvious how few people could master spirit channeling truth. Dark Shijio looked in horror at the retrograde silver light in her dark eclipse Jiutian. No matter how she resisted, her strongest killing move, Dark Eclipse Jiutian, could penetrate the Earth's core, but it couldn't stop Nameless. Lu Chen's retrograde speed began to increase, and seeing that he was right in front of her, Dark Shijio hurriedly withdrew her move. Dark Eclipse Celestial Body Ghost Steps. Dark Shijio's speed suddenly increased, trying to avoid Lu Chen. Everyone was in the air, and their speed was slower than on the ground, but Dark Shijio was confident that she could avoid Lu Chen's sword. However, Lu Chen saw Dark Shijio's attempt to dodge and snorted. You still want to run in front of me? Void 9 steps. Suddenly, everyone saw that an invisible stepping stone seemed to have appeared under Lu Chen's feet, and his speed was no different from when he was on the ground. It's really spirit channeling truth. Nameless speed should be about the same as Dark Shijio's, but because they're both in midair, there's no point for them to use as leverage. Dark Shijio's Dark Eclipse Celestial Body's Ghost Steps aren't as effective as on the ground. However, after Nameless used his spirit chi to create leverage points under his feet, his speed isn't affected at all. Impermanence analyzed. As expected, in terms of speed, Lu Chen far surpassed Enshijio. He caught up to Enshijio in an instant, attacking the void sky-piercing spear. Dark Shijio had no time to dodge. With a flash of silver light, Dark Shijio's Dark Shur 9 souls quickly wrapped around her body. In the blink of an eye, Lu Chen was already hovering in the air behind Jio. The dark clouds in the sky were directly split into 2 by the sword chi, revealing the blue sky. A perfectly straight crack appeared on the ground, directly severing the immortal corpse mound, extending for several thousand meters. Because the immortal corpse mound was also at the edge of the continent, this sword directly cut a part of the immortal corpse mound and separated it from the continent. Not long after, people heard the sound of flowing water. Then, they were shocked to see a large amount of seawater pouring into the crack. During the Nether Prison Big Hunt, Lu Chen had seen the edge of the Nether Prison being split by an expert sword. At that time, he had been very shocked. And today, he had also split the immortal corpse mound in 2. After Lu Chen completed his move perfectly, he turned to look at Enshijio. At this time, the black fog around Enshijio gradually dissipated. To everyone's surprise, Lu Chen's spear did not hurt Enshijio. More accurately, he did not even hit Enshijio. Enshijio looked at Lu Chen, her eyes filled with anger. You can't bear to kill with manners, Jio. Lu Chen said indifferently. This body is Jio's, not yours. Naturally, I won't hurt Jio's body. Ha 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 ha. Enshijio laughed. Good, if you have the ability to never kill me, I'll see how you save with manners, Jio. Lu Chen's expression was calm. Is our battle not over yet? Since you're no match for me, you can't take away my life reversal. Besides, didn't you kill me to find an answer? Now you have the answer. You're no match for life reversal. In that case, why do you have to drag me down? Answer? Bullshit answer. Ensure Jiao raged. I still have my strongest move. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. What's the point of your persistence? So what if you prove that you're stronger than life reversal? In the end, you're just a Jiaotian toy. The biggest difference between Dark Erosion Chaos and Life Reversal was that Dark Erosion Chaos was a set in the Jiaotian system, while Life Reversal was something not even the Jiaotian could control. I won't accept this. I've waited for 1,000 years for the profound dark body. I can't lose. So what if you can use the truth of spirit? I'll not only defeat you to death, I'll also make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead. And Shi Jiao roared, her beautiful face twisted with anger. Lu Chen's heart ached as he looked at the crazed Dark Erosion Jiao. Nameless, have a taste of my ultimate move. I don't believe you can block it. And Shi Jiao roared. I'll make you would manners Jiao and prosperous origin continent perish together. Looking at Shi Jiao's appearance, Lu Chen felt uneasy. This guy was crazy. You. Lu Chen frowned, looking at Shi Jiao. You want to explode your spiritual core? Everyone panicked. The explosion of a 9-star human king's spiritual core could easily destroy an entire continent. No one here would be spared from it. Even a sub-originator might not be able to withstand such a terrifying spiritual energy explosion. Ha 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 ha. And Shi Jiao laughed maniacally. Isn't it painful? The soul of the person you want to save will scatter. You, your friends, and everyone else here will die without a proper burial ground. And I only need to wait for the next master to be reborn. Ha 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 ha. Fate is so unfair. So what if you're strong? I'm the strongest. This time, even Ziyi Tianzi panicked, shouting, Unsure, are you crazy? I'm still here. Shut up. You're just a puppet in my eyes. Do you really think I'll become your disciple? Are you worthy? And Shi Jiao roared. The surrounding experts began to flee frantically. The spectators of the various academies summoned their mounts and hurriedly retreated. However, they couldn't leave prosperous origin continent in such a short time. Perhaps all they wanted was to get as far away as possible. As long as they were far away from here, they might have a chance to survive. In a short time, only 4,000 to 5,000 spectators were left in the immortal corpse mound. Lu Chen looked at the only remaining academy, Divinity Demon Academy. None of the Divinity Demon Academy's disciples had left. They were all guarding here. Lu Chen couldn't help but smile, and said to the academy, You didn't bet this time? That's not in line with your character. Black Armor King said embarrassedly, Dean, I didn't bet this time. I thought they would all bet on you. When the time comes, if you win, the banker will suffer a great loss. If you lose, then what's the point of earning money? Lu Chen nodded. And fortunately you didn't bet, or the academy might suffer a loss. Ah. Black Armor King looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Did the dean mean that he had the confidence to withstand Shi Jiao's spiritual core explosion? Chapter 1148. Jiao glared at Lu Chen. This guy was still chatting with the people from the demonic academy. She was about to detonate her spiritual core. Just how little did he take her seriously? Even if you can survive, it's impossible for you to save Jiao. Jiao said angrily. Lu Chen summoned Little Originator, and asked it to protect the people from the demonic academy. Then he looked at Jiao. Actually, I've been waiting for you to say that. Lu Chen said suddenly. Jiao agreed to let you devour her consciousness on the premise that you protect Taiwu Star. If you detonate your spiritual core, it means you have no intention of keeping your promise with the Mu Mansion. I can't save Jiao, but she can do it herself. This battle is not between you and me, but between Jiao and Jiao, of the Mu Mansion. With that, Lu Chen took out 2 drops of crystal and looked at Jiao. Dark Eclipse, are you wondering why you can't fully control Jiao's consciousness? Look at this and you'll know. This time, without needing Mengpa to activate it, the teardrop released Jiao's memories. The ancient battlefield, the beginner's village, the earth village, the bridge of helplessness, and the Mu Mansion. Looking at the memories, Jiao's eyelids twitched and her eyes flickered. Damn it, her consciousness is starting to go out of control. Lu Chen's eyes softened. Jiao, when you chose to seal your memories, you probably didn't know that the person who scared you was me. We knew each other when we were in the first heaven. But at that time, you were so scared that you quit the competition when you met me. I wanted to meet you a few more times. Lu Chen couldn't help but laugh. At Nieyuan village I recognized you at a glance. Unfortunately, you didn't know that the bad guy who caused your team to be wiped out was me. Thank you for standing up for me when I was besieged by bounty hunters. Thank you for standing up to protect my people when Green Wolf was slaughtering Earth's players. Thank you for helping my people when I wasn't around. I know that's the real you, not the lunatic you are now. Jiao clutched her head and roared in pain. Shut up. Stop. Don't say any more. Lu Chen obviously wouldn't listen to her and continued. Actually, I only found out later that Mu Xian was your clansman. He told me something that I still remember even now. Stop talking. Jiao covered her ears in pain, but every word of Lu Chen's words reached her mind. The most important right of a person is the right to choose. Perhaps he realized this because of his guilt towards you. Jiao, even if it's Mu Xian, I hope you can make your own choice. Do you believe in yourself, or do you believe in dark erosion? Make your choice. Dark erosion fell to the ground in pain and curled up into a ball. Right before Mu Xian's weapon disintegration, he told me that he hoped I could go to the Mu residence to propose marriage. He must have regretted his decision at that time, and hoped I could be by your side. I'm sorry I didn't go to you earlier, and let you bear so much alone. As a friend, I couldn't help at all. If you can come back, no matter what, I'm willing to face it with you. Suddenly, Dark Erosion knelt on the ground and vomited violently. Although she couldn't vomit anything, it was obvious she was extremely uncomfortable. At this time, she couldn't even use any skills, let alone exploding her spiritual pills. Jiao, don't listen to him. I will fulfill my promise. I was just scaring him. Dark Erosion explained painfully. Anyone could tell that she was patronizing Jiao. It could also be seen how intense the battle of consciousness was in Dark Erosion's mind. In a battle of consciousness, the deciding factor was not strength, but whether one's will was firm or not. Jiao's will might not be inferior to Dark Erosion's. After such a long time, even though Dark Erosion had gathered 9 pieces of Dark Erosion chaos, he still couldn't completely erase Jiao's consciousness. At this time, the most important point was that Dark Erosion planned to violate the agreement with the Mu residents. Then Jiao would no longer have any scruples and fight for control of consciousness with all her might. At this time, someone suddenly appeared beside Lu Chen. This person had a hunched back, dark skin and a skinny body. Standing beside Lu Chen, he looked even more unsightly. However, it was such a guy who almost made Lu Chen lose in his hands. Solipsistic, what are you trying to steal? Sky Thief looked at Dark Erosion Jiao, who was struggling on the ground. I can't steal her Dark Erosion set. It has already recognized her as its master. Just steal her attribute. Distract her and help Jiao regain control of consciousness. Oh, the key is spiritual power, so she won't really explode. That's a piece of cake. Sky Thief flashed to Dark Erosion Jiao's side. Who? Get lost. Dark Erosion Jiao was fighting with Jiao for consciousness. She had no time to care about the extra person beside her. She waved her hand wildly, but it was obviously not enough to touch Sky Thief. Sky Thief swaps. Sky Thief turned into a black shadow. Every time he passed by Dark Erosion Jiao, Dark Erosion Jiao's attributes would decrease greatly. If it was under normal circumstances, Dark Erosion Jiao might be able to deal with Sky Thief. However, she could not even take care of herself and could not chase after Sky Thief. She could only let Sky Thief steal her attributes. Her spiritual power decreased by 80,000. Her spiritual power decreased by 80,000. Her spiritual power decreased by 80,000. This series of numbers flooded the screen. Dark Erosion Jiao's eyes were filled with horror. Directly stealing her own attributes. What the hell was this? Dark Erosion was different from other cultivators. Due to her special identity, she did not have a battle soul. She only had extremely high attributes. However, Sky Thief's ability was to steal her own attributes. Dark Erosion Jiu, or watched her spiritual power decrease rapidly, but she could not do anything. Dark Erosion Jiu, or was facing enemies from both inside and outside. Even Dark Erosion Jiu, or could not bear to let Sky Thief steal her attributes so casually. In less than 3 minutes, Taihao suddenly realized that Dark Erosion Jiu, or's level had decreased. 8-star Human King Realm? Heavens, who is that stooped old man? How did he do it? A sea of clouds suddenly thought of something. Her level decreased? No. Could it be? Mabe, a sea of clouds, Etion, Taihao, and the others looked at each other. They all thought of the answer. Is it that thing in the main spirit vein? It turned out that Lu Chen had not come out empty-handed when he went deep into the main spirit vein a few days ago. He had already subdued this freak. On the way out of Zhongxiangu, Lu Chen did not go directly to the Immortal Corpse Mound. Instead, he took a detour to the Divinity Demon Academy. At that time he did not find Sky Thief, but Sky Thief found him. In order to repay his kindness, Sky Thief followed Lu Chen to the Immortal Corpse Mound. At this time Lu Chen could not help, but Sky Thief could disturb Jiu, or's new divinity without harming her body. He could help Jiu. 8-star, 7-star, 6-star. Jiu or's level dropped rapidly. In this situation, no one could remain calm. Jiu or was in more and more pain. She raised her head and wailed. Nameless. I will kill you. Unfortunately, at this time, whether she could hold on was a problem, let alone kill Nameless. At this time in the Demonic Academy's camp, Yi Fan fell into deep thought in the distance. Junior brother Yi Fan, what are you thinking about? Chu Tian asked curiously when he saw Yi Fan in a daze. Do you feel like you lost out because you did not bet? Yi Fan shook his head. I've already washed my hands of it. TCH, who would believe that? Xiaozhan immediately said, Hey, aren't you thinking about betting? Why are you in a daze? Yi Fan took a deep breath. The dean did not deceive me. He is indeed a love saint. In the future, when it comes to finding an immortal companion, I must consult the dean. Chapter 1149. Half an hour later, Jiuer's level had dropped to 1-star Human King Realm. Suddenly Jiuer stopped twitching and curled up into a ball motionless. Lu Chen hurriedly stopped Sky Pilfer and walked over to Jiuer to check on her. Jiuer? Lu Chen asked. Jiuer opened her eyes slightly and looked at Lu Chen. Her eyes were no longer dark purple. They were now red. But her gaze was clear. Nameless. Jiuer said weakly before fainting again. Jiuer. Lu Chen hurriedly picked her up. Ten-Winged Divinity Academy. With that, Lu Chen summoned Ten-Winged and leaped up, heading straight for the Divinity Academy. The disciples of the Divinity Academy were quite helpless. They wanted to go back, but the dean's mount hadn't gone far yet. They could only wait. After the people of the Divinity Academy left, dozens of figures walked out of the Immortal Corpse Mound. Qingli and the others looked at the battlefield that had changed beyond recognition. Then at the dissipating dark clouds in the sky. Almost all of them did the same thing. They took out their astrolabes, calibrated their positions, and observed the stars. Oh no, it's a sign of great calamity. The competition of providence has caused the stars to shift. In the past 10 years, the heavenly tribulation has been several times stronger than before. Damn it, I thought the two would fight and both sides would be injured. Who would have thought that the absorption of spiritual energy from heaven and earth would help us pass the tribulation? I feel a little unlucky to be in the same generation as Nameless. The divinity demon defying fate is a Jiotian taboo. If he doesn't pass the tribulation soon, we'll all be unlucky. It's best to send that jinx away quickly. Otherwise, none of us will pass the tribulation. Everyone sighed and shook their heads. They could only accept this result. In the Divinity Academy, Little Green gave Jiuer a pill. Although Jiuer hadn't recovered yet, her condition had stabilized. Lu Chen hurriedly asked Taihao. Senior Taihao, I don't think Jiuer has forced out the dark corrosion. If that's the case, will she be possessed by the dark corrosion again? Taihao looked at Jiuer and frowned. From what I know, there have only been 3 dark erosion chaos appearances, including this one. The first two were after the dark erosion was defeated, and the set was scattered all over Jiotian. Only this time did the dark erosion not collapse. Previously, I saw that Jioer's eyes were clear. It definitely wasn't a sign of dark erosion. I guessed that she had already seized control of her consciousness. As for not completely forcing out dark corrosion, I think it's possible what you're worried about. However, it's probably very difficult for dark corrosion to possess Jioer's consciousness again. Lu Chen was still worried. Should we find a way to force the dark corrosion out? Taihao said. That depends on what you think. You have to know that. Let's not talk about whether we can find such a method. If we really force out the dark corrosion, Jioer's strength will be directly reset to 0. Now, as long as she can suppress the dark corrosion, she will still be a 9-star monarch. Of course, you have to ask your friend to return the stolen spiritual power to her. Lu Chen thought about it. It seemed that the most important thing for this matter was to seek Jioer's opinion. They would talk about it when she woke up. Lu Chen looked at Heaven Stealing. Senior Heaven Stealing, can you stay at the Godfiend Academy for a while and wait for Jio, or to wake up? Heaven Stealing answered readily. I have nowhere to go. Although I don't like the Void Academy, this is no longer the Void Academy. The Godfiend Academy is just being rebuilt on the old site. The grudge between me and the Void Academy should not fall on the Godfiend. There's no harm in staying. Lu Chen heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. Thank you, Senior. By the way, has Senior Qiuming woken up? Heaven Stealing sighed. Not yet. She needs a long time to recover. I'm still thinking about where to steal some elixirs to help her recover. Lu Chen panicked. Heaven Stealing looked at Lu Chen's expression and laughed. Nameless, don't worry. I'll steal from anyone but you. Besides, there's nothing to steal from your little academy. But I just heard that you participated in some Heaven's Pride competition, and the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace rewarded you with a tribulation pill? Is the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace the strongest force now? They should have a lot of high-grade elixirs? Taihao reacted quickly. Taihao had seen Heaven Stealing before. Other than Lu Chen's creation space that could subdue him, no one else could. Stealing attributes, stealing equipment, who could beat him? Even if they agreed, they would lose a few levels in the end. In short, this master was someone they could not afford to offend. Taihao hurriedly said, Our Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace doesn't dare to be called the strongest. Moreover, we're not good at refining elixirs. We only need one tribulation pill, and we don't have any left. The Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace is yours? Heaven Stealing looked at Taihao in surprise. Yes. Oh, Nameless, he's your friend? Heaven Stealing asked Lu Chen directly. Lu Chen looked at Taihao's trembling appearance and found it funny. When did he see the master of the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace so panicked? After all, if Heaven Stealing wanted to steal, even the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace could come and go freely. Senior Heaven Stealing, Senior Taihao has helped me a lot. If you need elixirs, I'll get Little Green to refine them for you. Although Little Green hasn't broken through to Immortal Medicine Master yet, the elixirs she can refine are very high grade. Heaven Stealing nodded and looked at the busy Lu Yi. Miss Lu, I saw you refine elixirs before. Your talent is 1 in a million. It's not impossible for you to break through to Immortal Medicine Master. Lu Yi smiled politely. Many thanks for Senior Heaven Stealing's concern. Boss has already helped me get the peak grade elixir formula. It's just that I'm still missing a few rare herbs. After I find them, I will try to break through to Immortal Medicine Master. At that time, I will definitely help Senior to refine the elixirs, and help Senior Qiuming to wake up sooner. Lu Yi was a ghost pet. In this aspect, she was a little similar to an equipment spirit. Looking at Lu Yi's cultured and refined appearance, Heaven Stealing seemed to see Qiuming. Both of them had elegant and refined personalities. This made Heaven Stealing like this little ghost pet even more. Which herbs are you missing? This? Lu Yi was a little embarrassed. The other party clearly had a reason for asking this question. However, after the accident with Lu Chen, Lu Yi wouldn't accept other people's good intentions. Lu Chen smiled and said, It's Buddha Lotus Heart and God Entangling Vine. Right now, I haven't encountered these two herbs. However, to break through to Immortal Medicine Master, I need to try a lot. It seems like becoming an Immortal Medicine Master isn't something that can be done overnight. Taihao frowned and said, Buddha Lotus Heart and God Entangling Vine? Miss Liu, don't tell me you're planning to use the God Buddha Golden Lotus Elixir to break through to Immortal Medicine Master. That elixir's ingredients are too rare and the success rate is extremely low. The chances of forming a high-grade elixir are even lower. Hearing this, Lu Chen immediately glared at Taihao. Wasn't my peak-grade elixir a reward you gave me? Taihao was a bit embarrassed. As the palace lord, he naturally wouldn't ask about everyone's rewards in the prodigy competition. It's my negligence. I'll give you another formula. Use the Xianyuan body tempering elixir to break through. From what I know, all alchemists will use this formula. It's much easier than the God Buddha Golden Lotus Elixir. Right at this moment, Heaven Stealing spoke. No need to change. Alchemists and cultivators are actually the same concept. The stronger the resistance, the stronger you will be as long as you can overcome it. Your future development will be better. Therefore, use the God Buddha Golden Lotus. The two herbs you mentioned, I know a place that has them. I'll take you there. Heaven Stealing said with certainty. Chapter 1150. Perhaps Sky Thief was too excited and blurted it out. He quickly realized that Lu Chen would definitely be worried about Lu Yi, so he handed the fire stick to Lu Chen. Nameless, Qiu Ming is resting inside. It's inconvenient for me to bring her along. Help me take good care of her. Lu Chen was naturally clear about Sky Thief's feelings for Qiu Ming. The fact that Sky Thief left Qiu Ming in his care meant that he would guarantee Lu Yi's safety. For Little Green, this might be an opportunity for her. Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, Senior Sky Thief, how long will it take? That place is in the 6th heaven. It's in the 6th heaven. As for the time, there are plenty of materials there. What I mean is that if Little Green can refine pills in the Blessed Enclave, the possibility of her breakthrough will be higher than in other places. I just don't know if she's willing to refine pills there. Taihao's eyes widened. Blessed Enclave. There's a Blessed Enclave in the 6th heaven? Sky Thief smiled. It was left behind by my master. My friend. Naturally, you won't be able to find it. Apart from Lu Chen, no one else knew that Sky Thief was an artifact spirit. Sky Thief didn't want to mention it to anyone else, so he promptly changed the master to friend. Taihao took a deep breath and said to Lu Chen, Nameless, let Little Green break through there. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Lu Chen already understood. The Blessed Enclave mentioned by Sky Thief was left behind by his original master. How could a place left behind by a true immortal be bad? This was definitely the biggest opportunity that Little Green had ever encountered. After thinking for a moment, Lu Chen nodded and agreed. At night, Lu Chen summoned Little Green alone. Little Green, I've already discussed with Senior Sky Thief. I'll let Little Critter accompany you. Even though Senior Heaven Pilfer's strength is terrifying, due to his identity as an artifact spirit, he's a bit weak in a head-on battle in the end. The little beast can guarantee your safety. These are 2 interstellar sound-transmitting talismans. I forcefully bought 5 of them from Senior Taihao. 2 for you and 1 for Senior Heaven Pilfering. If you encounter any danger, send a sound transmission to me. If you can't find me, send a sound transmission to Senior Taihao. Lu Chen handed 2 golden sound-transmitting talismans to Little Green. Little Green's eyes were red as he took the voice transmission talisman. Little Green didn't know how his boss had forcefully bought the interstellar voice transmitting talisman, but his boss had actually spent a huge sum of money to buy 5-star grade voice transmitting talismans, and 3 of them were to ensure his safety. This was enough to show how worried Lu Chen was about him. He didn't know how long this training would take. Ever since Little Green started following Lu Chen, it had never left Lu Chen for such a long time. Even though Senior Heaven Pilfer was accompanying him, Boss was still worried about his own safety. To have such a master, as a ghost pet, she didn't have any more extravagant hopes. Boss, I will definitely break through and become an immortal apothecary. I want to walk down this path with you. Lu Yi said with a choked voice. You must wait for me to come back. Lu Chen smiled and stroked Lu Yi's hair. Silly girl, of course you have to walk down this path with me. I also believe that you will become stronger. This opportunity is very rare for you. Break through properly and don't think about other things. Little Green nodded heavily. Oh right boss, when Miss Jiu wakes up, where are you going next? Jiu asked. From Lu Chen's words, she seemed to have heard that Lu Chen had other things to do. Otherwise, it was impossible for the interstellar voice-transmitting talisman to not be able to contact him. Lu Chen said, I don't know what those super experts are up to recently. Also, I don't know what Purple Night Emperor and Heavenly Music Pavilion are planning. I plan to wait and see for now. However, I still have to find time to return to Earth. Lu Yi's marriage should be finalized soon. I want to go to Gufei's world to investigate. At the mention of Lu Yi, Lu Chen couldn't help but laugh. This girl, I still don't have a partner. She's about to get married, but she's not waiting for me. Boss, most people probably can't afford to wait for you. Little Green said with a snicker. Lu Chen didn't hear anything strange and said to himself, however, it won't be that easy for Gufei to become my brother-in-law. It's best if they ruin it. Boss, you also have such a dark side? Little Green looked at Lu Chen in amusement. Lu Chen laughed. I'm just joking. However, I really can't bear to part with that girl. Although they're both in Jiutian, but this feeling is a little indescribable. For so many years, Lu Chen and his sister depended on each other. An elder brother was like a father. This was probably the feeling of a father marrying off his daughter. All right, when Jiu wakes up, you'll have to leave. I'll help you pack. The next afternoon, Jiu woke up. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw a familiar figure sitting by her bed. Jiu. Lu Chen saw that Jiu had woken up and was so excited that he almost shouted. Jiu frowned slightly and was a little confused. Nameless, where am I? In my God and Devil Holy Courtyard. God and Devil Holy Courtyard. Jiu had a headache, but she gradually regained her memory. Jiu looked at the nervous man beside her, and her eyes became more and more aggrieved. In the end, she threw herself into his arms and cried. Nameless. She had too many things she wanted to say, but she didn't know where to start. Lu Chen stroked Jiu's head and softly comforted her. All right. I know you've been wronged, but it's all better now. Jiu's emotions gradually stabilized, and Lu Chen was in no hurry to tell her about the dark erosion. Today he would accompany Jiu to talk about the past and enlighten her. 3 days later, Jiu's emotions had completely stabilized. After the dark erosion took control of her consciousness, it did many things to kill and rob, but she had no choice. However, under Lu Chen's guidance, Jiu also knew that it was the dark erosion Jiu, not the wood manor Jiu, She finally felt much more at ease. Seeing that the time was right, Lu Chen asked about the dark erosion's current situation. The dark erosion hasn't disappeared, Jiu said. But it can no longer control my thoughts. Back then, it violated the agreement so that it can no longer possess my consciousness. Instead, it's being used by me. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This result was better than what Tai Hao had expected. Jiu could already control the dark erosion. In other words, the dark erosion had become a part of Jiu's strength. In that case, Lu Chen could finally get heaven pilfering to return the stolen attributes to Jiu. Jiu's level returned to the peak of the 9-star monarch realm. Jiu, you really profited from a disaster this time, Lu Chen said with a smile. Jiu only looked at Lu Chen. I suddenly remembered something. You said that great-grandfather asked you to come to the Wood Manor to propose marriage. Why didn't you come? Lu Chen was stunned. Why did Jiu's thoughts jump so much? These two topics were too different. You don't like me? Jiu asked. Lu Chen's heart was beating very fast. He had always had a good impression of Jiu, and she had left her memories of him in the river of forgetfulness. It was obvious that Jiu liked him. In other words, it was very likely that he would bid farewell to being single. It was even to the point of talking about marriage. Just as Lu Chen mustered up his courage and was about to speak his mind, the door was suddenly pushed open. A youth stood at the door angrily. The little beast was filled with anger at this moment. It angrily said to Lu Chen. Dad, I went out with Sister Green. Why did you give Sister Green 2 voice transmission talismans, but not one for me? Tell me, aren't you biased? Chapter 1151. Dad. Jiu looked at this married man in horror. Your son is already so big? I understand everything. Jiu rushed out of the door, leaving behind the father and son pair. Dad, what did Sister Jiu understand? Little Beast was confused. Lu Chen took a deep breath and walked to Little Beast's side. He put his hand on Little Beast's shoulder and said earnestly, Little Beast, this is a very important opportunity for you to go out and train. You must cultivate well outside. I told you to protect Sister Green. Why did you use a voice transmission talisman? Besides, if anything happens to you, Little Green will also send a voice transmission to me. So don't worry about the voice transmission talisman. Cultivate well. This time, don't go home if your strength doesn't increase by 5 or 10 times. Little Beast blinked his eyes. Dad, you trust me that much? Of course. After all, you are the Beast God. Okay, I know Dad likes me the most. Then I'm leaving. Before leaving, Little Beast gave Lu Chen a big hug. Dad, I will miss you. Also, hurry up and find me a stepmother. Don't always be single. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with tears. What a sensible child. After Sky Thief returned the attributes to Jiu, they were about to set off. Lu Chen personally sent them out of the God Demon Academy. After returning to the academy, a sea of clouds said that Jiu had already left. Before leaving, Jiu left a letter. Lu Chen hurriedly opened it to check. Nameless, although you didn't say the reason, I know why you didn't come to propose marriage. You have more important things to do. You won't stop for any woman. I don't want to be an obstacle to your growth. Actually, I just wanted an answer from you that day. But it seems like the time isn't right. Nameless, I'm leaving first. Since I've obtained Dark Erosion's strength, I have to shoulder the responsibility of protecting planet Taiwu. So I'm leaving first. Finally, I really want to thank you in person, but I'm afraid that the word thank you won't be enough to express my gratitude, and it will also make us seem distant. Then, I hope that we'll have a chance to meet again. By the way, there's one more thing. Even if you had proposed marriage at that time, I might not have agreed. Lu Chen read the letter that Jiu had left for him seriously and sighed. Sigh, I was just one step away from being single twice, but it was all ruined by Little Beast. Was this guy sent by the heavens to punish me? No matter what, Jiu had left, and the marriage proposal seemed to have fallen through. Not only that, Lu Chen looked around the room. He could no longer see the girl who was always busy grinding herbs and refining pills. The room suddenly became somewhat deserted. It seemed that Lu Chen had long been accustomed to having Lu Yi by his side. Now that he couldn't see Lu Yi, he was somewhat uncomfortable. Lu Chen stood up. The dark corrosion has been dealt with, but in the end it's deserted. Forget it, since we're all out, I'll go and see Lu Yi. After saying that, Lu Chen informed a sea of clouds and the others before heading to Zhongxingge. Gu Fei and the others were now at the 5th heaven. This time, Lu Chen directly descended to the 5th heaven. This time he wasn't in a hurry to go back. He could wait until next month when Zhongxingge opened the teleportation gate again. If it really didn't work, he could also directly enter the Tongtian Tower. It just so happened that he still had old scores to settle with the puppet master. Just as he arrived at the 5th heaven, Lu Chen looked at the familiar world and took a deep breath. The solipsistic embark. Lu Chen's location wasn't far from his country of origin, so Lu Chen headed there first. Just 10 miles away from the main mine, a large city had been built. From the size of the city, it didn't even lose to the Dongyu Imperial Palace. At this time, the city was holding some kind of ceremony, and a large number of people had gathered in the city. Lu Chen was directly brought to the square by the crowd. Perhaps it was too crowded, but the people here didn't recognize Lu Chen. Only a few people occasionally looked at Lu Chen and muttered, "Why does he look so familiar?" Although Lu Chen's appearance didn't change much, his height had reached 185 meters. His temperament was also very different from when he left the 5th heaven. What's going on? Lu Chen was a little puzzled. There was a huge statue erected in the square. It was at least 30 meters tall. The statue had a head of white hair and an extremely handsome face. Lu Chen recognized at a glance that the statue was of him. They actually erected a statue of him. The feet of the statue were already shiny from the touch of the people. It was probably because the people liked to touch the statue to make wishes. In the crowd, Lu Chen still saw many people making wishes to the statue when they passed by. Then, they touched the toes of the statue and muttered, "The origin God bless me. I hope I can pass the assessment this time. The origin God bless me. I hope I can break through to the earth cultivation realm as soon as possible." In the crowd, Lu Chen was speechless. How could he bless others to pass the assessment? He had just gotten the lowest score in history. How could he bless others? No matter what, the people were extremely respectful to the statue, and were unusually sincere when they made wishes. Not long after, a woman walked out of the city gate tower in front of the square. She held a golden talisman and said excitedly to everyone below the stage, "Everyone, our first reality extraction scroll has been successfully refined." There was a thunderous cheer below the stage. Although the first reality extraction scroll only had one attribute, and it took many attempts to succeed, this didn't affect the people's excitement. Lu Chen finally understood that today was the celebration banquet for the natives refining the reality extraction scroll. For the Earth players, this was definitely good news. For the natives, from the supply of raw materials to the successful refining of the reality extraction scroll, it would also bring them considerable benefits, which could be used to exchange for more resources. Lu Chen didn't know the person who announced the results, but Lu Chen knew almost all of the people standing behind the city gate tower. There were leaders of the natives and people from the Earth Alliance. More and more people from Earth are going up to the fifth heaven. The guide plan is indeed powerful. This is a good thing. After Lu Chen finished speaking, he went to find Lu Yi and the others. In the western part of Diyuan City, Lu Chen finally found the settlement of the Earth players. Although there weren't many Earth players, the living area was not small. It took up almost half of Diyuan City. It seemed that the natives had prepared a place for the Earth players in advance. As soon as they saw Lu Chen, the Earth players who were in charge of guarding the place were stunned. Mad God? Am I seeing things? Is that the Mad God? The others hurriedly looked at Lu Chen. After a while, they finally recognized Lu Chen. Suddenly a few men screamed, "It really is the Mad God!" The patrolling soldiers behind them, and the Earth players on the training ground all rushed over when they heard the screams. As soon as they saw Lu Chen, dozens of people rushed over. The news spread faster than Lu Chen, and dozens of people rushed out from behind. Other than Xiao Yao, Lu Yi, and Xing Chen, there were also their friends Frost Silk, Frost Dance, North Snow, Gufei Dongfengji, Xingguo Yanran, Cowherd, and even Mountain Strength Chasing Cloud and others. Lu Chen saw many familiar people rushing towards him from afar. They were all old friends. Lu Chen smiled and quickened his pace. Chapter 1152. Big Brother Beishan. Chasing Cloud. Lu Chen looked at Beishan and the others excitedly. He did not expect them to come from the fourth layer of heaven. "You guys are all here. I thought you guys went to the celebration party at the plaza." "Good lad. I thought I would never see you again." Beishan patted Lu Chen's shoulder. "We just came to the fifth layer of heaven, and we actually met you. We got the news a long time ago. The natives' higher-ups informed us. There were too many people at the plaza, so we didn't go." Chasing Cloud said. "Brat." Cowherd smiled and said, "How is Little Originator?" Lu Chen immediately summoned Little Originator. When Little Originator saw Cowherd, it ran to him and rubbed against him. Speaking of which, when Lu Chen was not around, Cowherd had taken care of Little Originator. Little Originator and Cowherd's relationship was not shallow. Xing Chen said, "Leader, the natives also miss you. Since you're back, do you want to tell them?" Lu Chen shook his head. "Forget it. It's good enough to see the natives develop so well. I can only stay for a month this time. I'm afraid they will go through a lot of trouble if they know I'm here." "Brother." Lu Yi happily hugged Lu Chen's arm. "Brother." Beishue Gufei also called out. Lu Chen rolled his eyes at Beishue Gufei. You're older than me. Why are you calling me brother? Beishue Gufei was a little embarrassed. You're Yi's brother. Naturally, you're my brother too. Age has nothing to do with seniority. Lu Chen looked at Beishue Gufei's embarrassed expression and couldn't help but snicker. This guy was a rare genius in the way of the sword. Gufei, I asked Yi to tell you that I want to go to your world to take a look. Have you applied? Gufei said, I have. Originally, the family didn't want you to go. After all, you're too strong now. They have some scruples. Lu Chen nodded. And then? Then my sister asked you to go. They agreed in the end. Your sister? Yes, my younger sister is Beishue Qingling. You two have met once before, but you might not remember. Lu Chen definitely didn't remember, but no matter what, since the North Shui family had agreed, he should go back and thank them. It was rare for Lu Chen to come back. With so many of his friends here, he definitely wouldn't be able to leave on the first day. That night, everyone gathered together and got drunk with good wine and good meat. Lu Chen woke up at noon the next day. Beishue Gufei and Lu Yi were already prepared. The three of them headed straight for a teleportation gate in their country of origin. When the three of them opened their eyes after being teleported through the portal, they found themselves in a world of ice and snow. Gufei, this is your world? Lu Chen was a little surprised. Lu Chen also felt that this was the first time he had come to this so-called alien planet. Gufei smiled and said proudly, Big brother, this place is covered in ice and snow all year round. It's called the Ice Plateau Planet. My family is one of the top families here. Big brother, follow me closely. 90% of the surface of the Ice Plateau Planet is covered in ice and snow. Don't fall into the ice caverns. There are many powerful magical beasts in there. If you don't come out in time, there's almost no chance of survival. Gufei explained. Lu Yi asked curiously, there are magical beasts in your world? Yes, the Ice Plateau Planet was originally a cultivation planet. There's spiritual energy here too. Our physical strength is much stronger than your Earth's. It's not strange for magical beasts to appear here. You're a high martial arts world? Lu Chen asked. It's not high martial arts. Your Earth is a technological world. Martial arts have not been developed yet. We've only developed it slightly. Compared to the worlds of other races, we're far behind. Gufei said as he took out an ice bead. Big brother, wait for a moment. I'll contact my family and ask them to send an ice anchor to pick us up. Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, Gufei, don't bother. I have a mount that can be extracted. Oh, that's great. Lu Chen immediately summoned his flying shuttle. After all, a 10-winged beast would be too conspicuous here. It was better to use the TIE shuttle. How about I give you this TIE shuttle in the future? Lu Chen suddenly asked. Lu Yi's eyes widened. Big brother, you're giving me the TIE shuttle? What will you use in the future? I also have a mount that can be extracted. 9-winged. I leveled up. I'm now a 10-winged beast. Lu Chen said calmly. Didn't Li Muhua tell you last time? Lu Yi was stunned for a long time before she said angrily, that guy didn't tell me. The speed of the flying shuttle was also very fast. After a few hours, they were already close to the Northern Snow Clan's territory. When they were about to reach the Northern Snow Clan's territory, Gufei turned to Lu Chen and said, Big brother, our ice plane planet respects strength. Right now, the clan's disciple selection is just around the corner. You can take a look when the time comes. Oh right, because the outer clan members have also come to the clan, many people don't know Big Brother's identity. However, the members of the Northern Snow Clan are more or less arrogant. If there's any ignorant person who offends Big Brother, I hope Big Brother won't lower yourself to their level. Lu Chen smiled faintly. What do I have to lower myself to their level? However, if I agree to your marriage with Yi, don't let your family bully my sister. Of course not. After all, I'm still ranked high in the Northern Snow Clan. Gufei said proudly. Lu Yi snorted. If you're so powerful, why don't you mention it now that you've defeated my big brother? At the mention of this, Gufei immediately lost his temper. Defeated Big Brother? Forget it, I've been thrown further and further behind. Competing with Big Brother is exhausting. I'd rather compete with myself. Lu Chen nodded. Constantly surpassing yourself is the most effective way to become stronger. As they spoke, the three of them had already reached the Northern Snow Clan's territory. Lu Chen put away the shuttle to show his respect. The Northern Snow Clan occupied an entire complex of buildings, occupying several mountains. Its scale was extremely large. At this moment, there were more than 10 people anxiously waiting in front of the gate, including the Northern Snow Clan's patriarch, Northern Snow Lingjun. Lord Lingjun of North Snow and a beautiful girl were supporting an old woman. The old woman held a dragon staff in her hand, waiting eagerly. Not long after, they saw the figures of 3 people walking towards them. They're here. An old woman smiled. Gufei has finally brought back my great-granddaughter-in-law. Northern Snow Lingjun's gaze fell on Lu Chen, solipsistic. The young girl beside the old woman tilted her head, looking at Lu Chen with smiling eyes. Big brother, we meet again. Northern Snow Gufei immediately introduced Lu Chen. Lu Chen still remembered some of the Northern Snow clansmen he had met in the Jiutian, but he didn't know the old woman and the young girl. Big brother, this is my great-great-grandmother. And this is Beishua Qingling, my little sister. Lu Chen brought Lu Yi and cupped their fists in greeting. Greetings, great-great-grandmother. Good. Quick, it's cold outside, let's go inside. Great-grandmother beamed as she looked at the Lu siblings. She held Lu Yi's hand and refused to let go. This daughter is so beautiful. Lu Chen smiled faintly. It seemed that great-grandmother liked Lu Yi very much. Then Lu Chen looked at Beishua Qingling. You're Beishua Qingling? I have to thank you for coming to Ice Plateau Planet, but do we know each other? Beishua Qingling smiled, her clear eyes looking at Lu Chen. Big brother, you really don't remember me? Chapter 1153. Beishua Qingling opened her palm, and an orange gem appeared in her fair and delicate palm. Then Qingling looked at Lu Chen with a smile. Lu Chen looked at the gem strangely. After thinking for a while, he finally realized what it was. The mission gem from the Heart Refining Academy. You're that girl? Before entering the Heart Refining Academy, one had to go through the jungle test and snatch gems. Lu Chen had already collected all the gems. When he was about to leave, he met a girl who was crying because she didn't have enough gems. He casually gave her one of the gems. Lu Chen didn't take this matter to heart at all, but who knew that Qingling had always remembered it, and even brought the gem with her. You were so young back then. You're already a big girl now. Lu Chen couldn't help but praise how time flew. Qingling smiled embarrassedly. Nameless big brother, other than growing taller, you haven't changed much. Nameless big brother, where's your bloodlust sword god outfit? At that time, Lu Chen was wearing that coquettish red dress. Lu Chen shook his head helplessly. Oh no, I didn't find anything similar along the way. Qingling lowered her head, seemingly disappointed. She always remembered the scene of the big brother in the red outfit giving her the gem. However, the bloodlust sword god was gone. However, so much time had passed. Nameless didn't change. Nameless big brother, your level is 1 star Wild Theo the Great? Beishua Qingling noticed the badge on Lu Chen's chest. Are you still a savage? Lu Chen was a little embarrassed. He corrected her. It's Wild Theo the Great, not a savage. Beishua Qingling asked curiously. Is this different? Faced with Beishua Qingling's sharp question, Lu Chen was speechless, seeing that Nameless couldn't answer. Qingling smiled mischievously. Brother Nameless, you should take this off. People who don't know you will definitely think that your badge is fake. Lu Chen's focus wasn't on how others would view it, but, could this thing be taken off? That's right, this is the real world. Lu Chen tried to take off the badge, and sure enough, it was taken off. Hey, you can really take it off. I didn't know about this before. North Snow walked in front of Qingling and Lu Chen, and looked at Qingling. The two of them were chatting quite well. He cupped his fists towards Lu Chen and said, Let's go in and talk. It just so happens that the family's elite disciple selection is about to begin. I saved a spot for you. Lu Chen nodded. Alright, it would be good to see how strong the Beishua clan was. Speaking of which, judging from the size of the North Snow Martial Academy, this family was definitely not short of money. In the past, Lu Qin had never dreamed that Lui would possibly marry into a wealthy family. And a wealthy family in the cultivation world at that. The group entered the North Snow Martial Academy. At this time, there were more than 10,000 people gathered in the martial arts field of the North Snow Martial Academy. According to Gu Fei, this was only because the Bei Shui clan had limited the number of outsiders. If all the members of the Bei Shui clan came, the North Snow Martial Academy would not be able to accommodate so many people. As expected of a wealthy family, there was a VIP area in the audience area, where the Bei Shui clan's patriarch and the representatives of the other clans of the Ice Plain planet were seated. According to the seniority of the clan, Gu Fei was not allowed to come here. However, great-grandmother kept holding Lu Yi's hand, and did not want to see her off, so no one dared to stop her. As for Lu Qin, he was personally invited by North Snow Martial Academy to the VIP area. I'll be at the core disciple area. Call me if you need anything. Gu Fei was still worried about Lu Yi and did not forget to remind her before they parted. Before leaving, he also did not forget to say goodbye to Lu Qin. Lu Qin was both angry and amused. This silly boy, Lu Yi, was with him. What else could happen? What made Lu Qin a little confused was that Gu Fei was not here, but Qingling was? Wasn't she Gu Fei's little sister? Why did it feel like her status was higher than Gu Fei's? Lu Qin quietly asked Qingling. Hey, your brother is going to the disciple area. How can you stay here? Qingling's face was full of pride. I can. This girl was quite proud. Perhaps there was some reason that she did not want to reveal. Lu Qin did not ask, and only shook his head with a smile. The people of the extremely large clans had been waiting here for a long time. When they saw Lu Qin, they could not help but whisper among themselves. This is the VIP that Patriarch Ling Jun mentioned? Which clan is she from? I've never seen her before. I heard that she's Gu Fei's fiancée. Only 2 people came from her clan? Maybe she's from some small clan. Gu Fei is the #1 genius of the Ice Plain planet. Our Ling Feng clan had proposed marriage several times, but he had rejected all of them. I didn't expect him to marry a woman from such a small clan. How can they be so careless about marriage? I really don't know what they're thinking. These people were not from the Bei Shui clan. Although Lu Qin heard them whispering, he pretended not to hear. North Shui Ling Jun announced the start of the elite disciple selection. Immediately, someone pushed a black basalt stone onto the stage. Lu Qin could tell at a glance that this was a testing stone. The first test was the strength of the physical body and spiritual power. The participating disciples stepped onto the stage one by one. The elite disciples at the side announced the results simultaneously. Body tempering stage 7, please enter the preparation area. Body tempering stage 8, please enter the preparation area. Body tempering stage 6, North Shui, who please take the test again. Body tempering stage 6, please return to the disciple area to watch the competition. Lu Qin watched with great interest. The results were not based on numerical values, but on the level of body tempering stage. Of course, Lu Qin guessed that the 2 were essentially the same. Lu Qin asked Qingling beside him. Oh right, your level is not in the same system as the Jiutian level, right? What's the concept of body tempering? Bei Shui and Qingling said. It's actually the same. Our first major realm is body tempering, then qi tempering, and the next major realm is cultivator. After that, it's the same as the Jiutian level. Lu Qin nodded. So that's how it is. This Ice Plain planet was indeed a world of cultivators. However, it was different from what Lu Qin imagined. They also needed to rely on the Jiutian. According to the rules, only body tempering stage 7 and above could participate in the elite disciple selection. Most of the disciples were at body tempering stage 7 or 8, but there were some who did not for some reason. At this moment, the crowd gasped. Qi tempering stage 4. It's Bei Shui Han. Another genius from the Bei Shui family. He could be the next Bei Shui Gu Fei. There's no suspense in this selection. Even if it's 1 in 10,000, he's qualified to become an elite disciple. Finally, the first round of tests ended. Bei Shui Ling Jun was very satisfied with the results. This time, there were 2 Qi tempering stage geniuses. To the Bei Shui family, these were geniuses that they could focus on. Next was the competition between the disciples. This was the real condition that could decide whether or not one could become an elite disciple. Level was one thing, but actual combat was more important. Just as the competition was about to start, the entire Beishui mountain villa trembled violently. As the number one power in the ice plain continent, the Beishui mountain villa was built on top of a solid foundation, surrounded by a layer of ice that had been frozen for thousands of years. However, not long after, the ice outside the Beishui mountain villa cracked open. A huge crack appeared on the ice a dozen meters away. Beishui family, Beishui Guxing, embark. A deep voice came from afar. Today all of you here will die. Chapter 1154. Along with a loud rumbling sound, people saw a huge white snow ape running towards them. This snow ape was at least 100 meters tall. Its whole body was white, it had 4 arms, a pair of eyes and fangs. And on the shoulder of this snow ape, there was a man in white. The man was very handsome, but compared to Gufei's handsomeness, this man was more gloomy. It's Guxing. He didn't die. North Shui Lingjun's eyes were wide open. He hurriedly ordered, North Shui clan, go fight the enemy. The people from the other clans were also very surprised. North Shui Guxing? Isn't he North Shui Gufei's brother? It's said that Beishui Gufei is a genius that only appears once in 100 years, while Beishui Guxing is an idiot that only appears once in 100 years. Furthermore, this person has a cruel personality. When the matter of him killing many of his clansmen was exposed, he was sentenced to death by the Beishui clan. His mount is the long-arm ape. Oh no, not only is this guy not dead, he can even tame the long-arm ape. His strength is unimaginable. At this time, no one cared about the elite disciple selection. Everyone rushed out of the North Snow Villa. In the chaos, North Shui Gufei hurriedly found Lu Yi. No matter what happens later, let your brother take you away first. What about you? Lu Yi looked at Gufei anxiously. Gufei took a deep breath. Guxing is my brother, I have to stop him. Let my brother go, Guxing looks very strong. Lu Yi said. Gufei shook his head. Guxing didn't go to Jiutian. His strength comes from the ice plain planet. He can tame an adult long-arm ape. His strength is very terrifying. Big brother is just 1-star Emperor Xiao. I can't let him take the risk. You guys go quickly. Lu Yi was very confused. Even her brother was not a match for Guxing. Then wouldn't Gufei die if he went? Before leaving, Gufei looked at Lu Yi affectionately. I'm sorry, I'm still too weak. I might not be able to protect you. Find someone who loves you. Gufei's eyes were red. He turned around and rushed out of the villa's gate, leaving Lu Yi crying her heart out. Lu Chen found his sister. Seeing that she was crying, he hugged her in his arms. Silly girl, why are you crying? Brother. Lu Yi looked at her brother and cried even harder. Gufei might die. Lu Chen sighed. Although he was reluctant to let his sister get married, he was even more reluctant to let her be heartbroken. All right, I know. Isn't your brother here? I won't let him die. No, Lu Yi cried as she said. Gufei said that Guxing's power came from Ice Plain Star. You're not his match. I can't let you take the risk. As Lu Yi, she must be very conflicted now. She could not bear to part with Gufei, but she could not let her brother die. Lu Chen chuckled. You speak as if he knows my strength. If I tell you that nothing will happen, then nothing will happen. Let's go and have a look. However, we can't just listen to one side of the story. We can also see how the North Shui clan is like, and how Gufei's character is. If they're worth it, I'll naturally do it. Lu Chen wiped away Lu Yi's tears. Silly girl, it's your first time here. Look, your eye makeup is ruined. What brand of makeup do you use? We have so much money at home. Why don't you use a waterproof one? Brother, is this the time to talk about this? Lu Yi was amused by her brother when she was heartbroken. She was really angered to death. Ha ha ha, let's go and see that Guxing. Lu Chen saw that Lu Yi's tears had turned into laughter. He smiled and pulled Lu Yi to the main entrance of the villa. Right at that moment, with a loud bang, a hemispherical light screen appeared in the sky above the North Snow Mountain Villa, completely covering the entire North Snow Mountain Villa. Lu Chen frowned slightly. A ceiling formation. They're trying to kill us all. Alright, now we can't leave even if we want to. However, to be able to set up such a huge ceiling formation in such a short time, it meant that Gu Xing's strength was terrifying. When Lu Chen brought his sister to the main entrance of the villa, he found that the giant ape was still standing there. Its master had already jumped down from its shoulder and was walking towards the North Shui villa. On the other side, the North Shui great ancestor, North Shui Lingjun, North Shui Gufei, North Shui Qingling and the others were staring at that person. Looking at them up close, Beishua Guxing and Beishua Gufei actually looked quite similar. It was just that their temperaments were too different. Guxing, didn't we already sentence you to ice? North Shui Lingjun looked at the person in front of him in shock. The corners of Guxing's mouth curled up slightly. Uncle, speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If you hadn't thrown me into the extreme frost ice cave, how could I have gotten rid of the frost poison in my body? How could I have obtained the extreme frost core? And how could I have tamed the four-armed divine ape? Ice poison. Gufei's eyes widened. Your cultivation speed has always been slow. So it's because of the ice poison? Guxing looked at Gufei coldly. What else could it be? Brother, you're called the #1 genius in 100 years, and I'm called the #1 idiot in 100 years. You think you're better than me? If it wasn't for the ice poison, you'd be nothing but an ant in front of me. Gufei sighed. Guxing, you should have told me earlier. No matter if you're a genius or an idiot, I've always treated you as my younger brother. Ha 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 ha. What a good younger brother. Guxing laughed wildly. Of course you think so. Because you've already gotten everything that I'm envious of. Of course you don't care. And your so-called care for me is just a lie. Your care is just out of pity. Don't pretend to be so righteous. I hate you the most. The first person I want to kill is also you. Gufei kept shaking his head. It's because I only cared about cultivation and didn't care enough about you. That's why you think so. Guxing, it's all my fault that you went down the wrong path. Back then you killed 23 clansmen. That's why the clan decided to punish you with ice. That's the clan rules. It has nothing to do with the Beishua clan. If you want revenge, you can look for me alone. Lu Chen could feel Lu Yi's hand unconsciously tightening. It seemed like she was too worried about Gufei. Went down the wrong path. Guxing's eyes were full of mockery. Gufei, look at you now. You're just a mere emperor. And me? I just didn't go to the Jiutian. If I went to the Jiutian, I could do whatever I wanted in the sixth heaven. You call this going down the wrong path? Brother, do you know why I only came today? Guxing's brother sounded awkward. He didn't treat Gufei as his brother at all. Today it seems like the girl you like came to the Beishua clan. Guxing smiled. I thought about it. For the past few decades, you've taken everything from me. Then this time, I'll let you see with your own eyes how I take away your most precious thing. Gufei's eyes burned with anger. You dare. Chapter 1155. Not far away, Lu Yi suddenly realized that something was wrong with her brother. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, as if he was suppressing the anger in his heart. If these words were said in front of Lu Chen would probably be angry. However, Lu Chen did not flare up for the time being. He just narrowed his eyes slightly. Looking at it this way, although this kid's background is pitiful, he does have a reason to die. As he spoke, Lu Chen noticed that a thick layer of frost had formed on the seal. It seemed that Guxing was determined not to let anyone here have a chance to leave. Although Beishua Gufei angrily rebuked Guxing, this made him even more excited. Ha 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 ha. It seems that you care a lot about your woman. Unfortunately, I am no longer the Beishua Guxing of the past. As he spoke, Beishua Guxing's gaze fell on Lu Yi. He smiled at Beishua Gufei. Watch carefully. See if I dare. Suddenly, Beishua Guxing moved. Gufei's eyes widened. Guxing's speed was too fast. Ordinary movement skills could not keep up. Reverse blood sword intent star form. Big brother Lu Yi, get out of the way. Gufei shouted angrily. The blood in his body flowed in reverse. Gufei, don't use reverse blood. Beishua Lingjun shouted, but it was too late to stop Gufei. Members of the Beishua family, listen up. You must kill Guxing. However, These people were only at the body-tempering stage. They were not even real cultivators. How could they stop Beishue Guxing? Suddenly, an old man pulled Lu Yi behind him. It was the great ancestor of the Beishue family. Guxing, if you want to kill me first. Great ancestor. Lu Yi wanted to say something, but the great ancestor interrupted her. Girl, if you escape from the ice, although you may die at the bottom of the lake, at least you have a chance to live. If you fall into Guxing's hands, I'm afraid you'll suffer a fate worse than death. As she spoke, the great ancestor's body exploded with spiritual energy. From the strength of the spiritual energy, she was actually quite strong. The great ancestor was very old, which meant that she had reached a very high level. However, at the same time, her situation should be the same as Etion's AC of Clouds. There was no hope for her to break through. Boom. Even Lu Chen hadn't expected that Solitary Flying, who was only at the Emperor level, would actually catch up to Solitary Star. The two of them instantly exchanged blows. After one or two moves, Gu Fei was directly sent flying by Guxing's palm. He smashed into the ice surface like a cannonball. Guxing stopped and looked at Gu Fei, who couldn't get up from the ground. He snorted. You even used the reverse blood and don't want your life anymore. It seems that you really have deep feelings for this woman. Don't worry, I won't let you die so quickly. After all, I want you to see with your own eyes what it feels like to lose a loved one. Guxing you. Gu Fei spat out a mouthful of black blood, his face pale. Who would have thought that Lone Star's strength would actually increase so terrifyingly in the extreme cold ice cave? Even in the reverse blood state, the difference between them was too great. Stop it. Stop. Beg me. If you beg me, perhaps I will agree. Louis could not stand it anymore. She broke free from Lu Chen's hand and rushed to Gu Fei. She cried as she helped Gu Fei up. Are you okay? No matter how strong he is, I'll face it with you. Gu Fei looked at Lu Yi with heartache and shook his head. He's too strong. Let your brother take you away. Perhaps he has a way to protect you from the ice. I'm sorry. No, you didn't let me down. Lu Yi's tears fell like rain. I don't regret meeting you. Even if I die, I want to die with you. Ha, what a pair of lovebirds. I'm almost touched. Guxing laughed. This must be my sister-in-law. I'm sorry, I'm going to kill you soon. Lu Yi pulled out her sword and stood in front of Gu Fei. She glared at Guxing. I'm not afraid of you. Come at me if you have the guts. You have quite a temper. Gu Fei, what's wrong? You need a woman to protect you now? Unfortunately, none of you can leave. Guxing's eyes were filled with killing intent. North Snow Great Ancestor and North Snow Lingjun saw this and knew that things were not going well. The two of them flashed towards Lu Yi. Go. A bunch of old farts. You think you can stop me? Guxing was like a shooting star as he shot towards Lu Yi. Die. Ice Soul, Extreme Frost Ice Heart. This move caused the water vapor in the air to freeze. Guxing's palm was covered in sparkling frost. Gu Fei's eyes were about to split open. Great Ancestor and Uncle were too late. He exploded with all his strength and dragged Lu Yi behind him. Inverse Blood Sword Intent. Return of 10,000 Swords. At this moment, people suddenly heard another voice. Alright, I admit. You brat, you've passed my test. Treat my sister well in the future. If I find out that you dare to bully her, I'll teach you a lesson. There was a loud bang. Where Gu Fei was originally standing, the 10,000-year-old ice layer collapsed. The frozen ground was directly blasted into a huge pit that was dozens of meters wide. However, people realized that North Snow Gu Fei and Lu Yi were not there. They were now dozens of meters away from the deep pit. The inverse blood sword intent seemed to have deviated because of Gu Fei's position. It directly slashed past Guxing's side and hit the seal. There was now a white-haired man beside Gu Fei and Lu Yi. Who is that person? He's so fast. Clan leader Ling Feng, who was second only to North Snow, looked at the white-haired man in disbelief. He's even faster than North Snow Great Ancestor. Gu Fei looked at Lu Chun and panted heavily. Big brother, didn't I ask you to take Lu Yi away? Guxing's strength is too terrifying. Although you're very strong, you're still just one-star Emperor Xiao. Lu Chun smiled. You're wrong. I'm 1 Field's Theo the Great. This. Gu Fei couldn't react for a moment. Was there a difference? On the other hand, North Snow Qingling blushed when she saw Lu Chen. Big Brother finally made his move. Why does Big Brother look different from before? Right now he's even better looking than Big Brother Gu Fei. Qingling, is that Big Brother the person beside you just now? A girl around Qingling's age asked. Yes, it's him. Lu Yi's brother is so strong? To be able to escape from Gu Xing's technique, that's too terrifying. The girl said in shock. Such a person can't be nameless on ice field. Qingling said. Zifan, who do you admire the most in Jiutian? The girl didn't know why Qingling would suddenly ask this question. Moreover, as her best friend, shouldn't Qingling know? Solipsistic. Why? Qingling smiled. Everyone says that he's crazy. However, they don't know that he doesn't want to be remembered by the world. That's why he's called nameless. The person you're looking at now is your idol. Qingling turned to look at Zifan. Zifan's eyes widened as he looked at the white-haired man. White hair, fox ears. If this wasn't the legendary man in Jiutian, who else could it be? Chapter 1156. North Snow Great Ancestor and North Snow Ling Jun arrived soon after. Lu Chen said to the two of them, Take Gu Fei and Lu Yi away from here. Gu Fei's internal injuries are serious and he needs treatment as soon as possible. I didn't expect him to be able to stop Gu Xing. I was too careless. Brother Du Kuang, this is our North Snow family's matter. Ling Jun is ashamed to have troubled you. Lu Chen smiled. We're going to be a family soon. What's the point of saying this? Besides, this Gu Xing doesn't plan on letting us go. Lu Chen looked at Lu Yi. Just in time. I, Lu Chen, am marrying my sister. At the very least, I need to establish a reputation in your ice plateau planet, and let them know that she's my, Lu Chen's, sister. Gu Fei almost lost his temper. Hearing Lu Chen's words, he opened his eyes. Big brother, you said you. Lu Chen smiled. Gu Fei, you're willing to give up your life for Lu Yi. What reason do I have to reject this marriage? With that, Lu Chen shook his head. That's right. Your strength is worrying. When I have time, I'll have to teach you a few moves. Everyone around them was confused when they heard this. This white-haired man was criticizing their ice plateau planet's #1 expert like that. He was directly saying that Gu Fei was weak? And the North Snow family head and great ancestor were especially happy to hear that. Just who was this guy? Big brother, you have to be careful. Gu Xing's strength is too terrifying. Gu Fei said. You're just 1 Emperor Xiao. You can't be careless. If you can't fuse your soul and body, your strength will be greatly reduced. Lu Chen shook his head. I already said that I, Theo the Great, am different from others. Forget it, it's hard to explain it to you. Just rest up and leave this to me. Ling Jun and Great Ancestor were about to leave with Gu Fei and Lu Yi when Lu Chen suddenly asked, there's one more thing. Brother Du Kuang, please speak. Ling Jun replied. I won't leave this Gu Xing alive. Ling Jun glanced at Gu Xing. Although he was from the North Snow clan, and his past was indeed pitiful, the North Snow clan had never mistreated him. Yet he killed his fellow clan members, and today, he even wanted to exterminate the North Snow clan. The Bei Shui family is equal to everyone in the family. Regardless of whether you're a direct descendant or a collateral descendant, you'll be punished the same way. Not to mention that he's already been sentenced to death. Lu Chen nodded. That would be best. Ling Jun led Gu Fei and the others away from the battlefield. At this moment, only Lu Chen and Gu Xing remained. Gu Xing narrowed his eyes slightly. With his strength, massacring the entire northern snow village would be a piece of cake. However, this person had managed to dodge his attack with ease. Who are you? Lu Chen looked at Gu Xing indifferently. Speaking of which, after Yi and Gu Fei get married, you should also call me brother-in-law. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to wait until then. Lu Chen couldn't help but sneer. Gu Xing's eyes narrowed. You're really arrogant. Everyone here is going to die anyway. One more person is just one more death. I'm already at the peak of the 9th star human king realm. It's just that I didn't go to the Jiotian. If I did, I'd be the strongest in the sixth heaven. You dare to be arrogant in front of me? Watch how I'll torture you to death." As soon as these words came out, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. Peak of the 9th star human king realm. My God, Gu Xing has actually reached the pinnacle of mortals. What kind of fortuitous encounter did he have in the extreme cold ice cave for him to have such a terrifying improvement in just a few years? This is a great fortuitous encounter. Even in the Jiotian, it's something unimaginable. I didn't expect a villain like him to obtain it. Not good, we all underestimated Gu Xing's strength. Brother Gu Kuang is in danger. Ling Jun of the North Snow clan said anxiously. However, great-grandmother sighed. It's too late to say anything now. Although we don't want to implicate little friend Gu Kuang, Gu Xing doesn't intend to let anyone here go. Right now, only Lone Tyrant can fight against Lone Star. Louis was worried about Gu Fei's injuries and her brother's battle. She only felt that the world was spinning. Bei Shui Qingling pulled Lu Yi's hand. Brother Gu Fei's life won't be in danger. Now all of our hopes of survival are on Brother Nameless. Lu Chen muttered. Why are all the opponents we've met recently saying that they're the strongest in the sixth heaven? Shouldn't there only be one strongest? Since you're the strongest in the sixth heaven, then bring it on. After saying this, Lu Chen looked at Gu Xing calmly. Gu Xing snorted coldly. Why use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken? Arm. The huge snow ape, who was waiting to be dispatched, roared angrily. Its 4 thick arms hammered its chest, showing off its strength. This was the real world, but Lu Chen was already used to fighting with his true body. Not only that, but he also had many things that he could use without needing to extract them. Although he couldn't use the infinite sword of demons and gods and demons' lotus heart, the emptiness of gods and demons' arm, and the heavenly eyes of demons and gods and demons were parts that had fused with his body. They were directly part of his body and didn't need to be extracted at all. Also, there were his battle pets. They already had their original bodies. Lu Chen had only brought them from the Jiotian to the Ice Plain planet. After thinking about it, Lu Chen summoned Little Furball. Little Furball, I'll leave that monkey to you. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Little Furball seemed to be very excited. It was interested in the surrounding environment, and was very happy that it had an opponent. It even swallowed a mouthful of saliva when it agreed to the task. After jumping down from Lu Chen's hand, the little furball quickly ran towards the huge Tongbi divine ape. As it ran, its body enlarged. When it reached the front of the Tongbi divine ape, it was already as big as the Tongbi divine ape. Zifan opened his eyes wide and said in horror, "What is that? I thought it was just a cute pet mouse. How did it become so big all of a sudden?" "That's Brother Nameless' battle pet, the swallowing god rat," Qing Ling exclaimed. "The swallowing god rat? I've never seen such a battle pet in the illustrated handbook. There's only one swallowing god rat, and it's not recorded in the illustrated handbook of Jiotian battle pets." Little Furball didn't care about the long-arm ape. It pounced on the ape and bit it. The long-arm ape didn't expect the large rat to be so fierce and fast. Its shoulder was bitten by Little Furball. But the long-arm ape wasn't weak either. Its wound was quickly covered by a layer of ice. Little Furball didn't bite it. Seeing that the long-arm ape was waving its 4 arms, Little Furball quickly shrank and crawled to the long-arm ape's back. Then it enlarged and bit the long-arm ape again. While the long-arm ape was strong, it wasn't as agile as Little Furball. The long-arm ape was already furious after being bitten twice, but it couldn't do anything to Little Furball for the time being. In the meantime, Lone Star had dashed toward Lu Chen. "You've taken out a battle pet. But you can't even be a god. I'll kill you and then I'll slaughter Beishua." Lu Chen squinted at Lone Star. He wouldn't let Louis marry him if he didn't kill Lone Star. "You're already a dead man from the moment you tried to kill Louis," Lu Chen said coldly. "Cut the crap. Take this." Ice spirit piercing coldness. A cold wind sprang up like sharp blades. Countless icicles surged toward Lone Star's fist. His fist was covered by a thick layer of ice and expanded 100 times. That horrifying punch was enough to break the ice of the ice plateau planet that had been frozen for 10,000 years. Lu Chen snorted. His left hand quickly turned into a demon, until it was almost as big as his body. Flames appeared on his arm. That punch was infused with the power of the underworld fire. Spirit manipulation. Void attack. Earth fire shatters the void. Lu Chen shouted. His void arm punched at that horrifying ice fist. Chapter 1157. At the center of the collision of ice and fire, steam and spiritual chi burst out at the same time. The ice under their feet shattered instantly, and the violent spiritual chi sent all the onlookers flying backward. Many of them hit the wall directly and spat out blood. This is just the aftermath of the spiritual chi. How could it be so horrible? Oh no. We can't hold it anymore. Is this the strength of a 9-star human king? It's horrible. Lord Lingjun of North Snow, Ancestor Tai, and the experts of other families, such as Lingfeng and Chigu, activated their shields at the same time. However, their protective shields were unable to withstand such a powerful spiritual true chi, and were directly shattered. In this battle, Gu Xing and Lu Chen hadn't finished yet, but all the onlookers had been injured. Now they finally understood one thing. A battle at the peak of the 9-star human king realm was not something that everyone could watch. The two sides were still in a stalemate. Seeing that the onlookers couldn't resist the aftermath of the spiritual chi, Lu Chen summoned the Suboriginator. Suboriginator. Protect Lu Yi and the others. A white tiger jumped to the onlookers and stood in front of them. The Suboriginator had the ability to absorb spiritual chi temporarily, so it could protect the onlookers. At the same time, a few seconds after their fists collided, the ice on Gu Xing's right arm suddenly shattered. Without the protection of the ice, Gu Xing's physical body faced the great virtual arm, and the result was predictable. His right fist was shattered immediately, and the bones of his forearm pierced through the skin from his elbow. His whole arm was destroyed. The earth fire quickly entangled Gu Xing, and his right arm was devoured by the fire. At the same time, Gu Xing flew backward and hit the huge stone pillar in front of the North Snow Mountain, breaking it and collapsing it. Gu Xing had no time to vomit blood. Seeing the fire still spreading up his arm, he gritted his teeth, turned his left hand into an ice knife, and cut off his right arm. After sealing the wound with ice, Gu Xing raised his head and looked at Lu Chen, his eyes full of horror. How? How could you be so powerful? Impossible. You can't have passed the tribulation. What level are you at? Lu Chen walked slowly toward him. As he walked, he took out his badge and put it on. Seeing the words Emperor Xiao of Xingye, Gu Xing was dumbfounded. He was defeated by 1-star Emperor Xiao? It should be noted that the cultivators on the Ice Plain planet were similar to the cultivators on the Jiutian planet. Logically speaking, the Theo the Great of the Jiutian planet should be the same as the Theo the Great of the Ice Plain planet. However, this guy's strength had been greatly reduced, yet he was still able to defeat him so easily. Are all Jiutian experts this strong? Gu Xing's eyes widened. Lu Chen pursed his lips. Something like that. Gu Xing suddenly felt as if his world was collapsing. He was a peak 9-star human king, yet he had been instantly defeated by someone who was 2 realms higher than him. The key point was that Jiutian was filled with such strong people. Lu Chen's casual words not only shocked Gu Xing, but also Gu Fei and the others. It can't be, is what Big Brother said true? If it's true, then is the 6th heaven still a place for people to stay? Gu Fei endured his injuries and looked at Lu Yi in horror. Lu Yi finally heaved a sigh of relief. Hearing Gu Fei's question, she couldn't help but laugh. Are you stupid? Can you believe my brother's words? What he thinks is different from what we think. Gu Fei thought about it. That seemed to be the case. Lu Chen felt that Gu Xing was weak, but could they feel that Gu Xing was weak? Thinking of this, Gu Fei finally heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was fake. Otherwise, it would have been a huge blow. Lu Chen looked at Gu Xing coldly. I don't care what your feud with the Beishua family is, but since you dared to have designs on Lu Yi, you must die. Gu Xing glanced at the battle between Tong Bai and the fur ball. Tong Bai's body was covered in ice, and under the ice, there were ghastly wounds. It looked like Tong Bai was seriously injured. On the other side, the large rat was getting more and more ferocious. Its eyes were filled with mockery as it gnawed on Tong Bai Godly Ape's arm, Your battle pet is also so strong. Lu Chen looked at the fur ball and smiled. The little guy was not fighting properly again. Gu Xing suddenly heaved a sigh. Your sister really has a good brother. You also have a good brother, but you don't know how to cherish him. Lu Chen said, Gu Fei has an upright personality and is also responsible. In the distance, Gu Fei widened his eyes and pulled Lu Yi. Yi, did you hear what my brother said? He praised me. I heard it. Lu Yi was speechless. It was rare to see Gu Fei so happy, and the reason was because her brother praised him. Didn't my brother say that you passed his test? I know. I just haven't heard your brother praise me like that. Gu Fei was so excited that he even forgot about his own injuries. He was jumping up and down. Simon. Louis shook her head and sighed. Everyone felt that the battle was coming to an end, including Lu Chen. Lu Chen activated the void arm and was about to end Gu Xing's life. However, right at that moment, Gu Xing burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. It's easy for you to say that. They all seem to be nice to me, but deep down, they all despise me. Those people I killed, they all deserve to die. I wish I could kill all the people of the Beishua family. I was unlucky enough to run into you. You stopped me from killing the Beishua family. I will make you pay. I will let you have a taste of your own medicine. Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. You are about to die, but you still don't know how to repent. I did nothing wrong. Why should I repent? Gu Xing became more and more crazy and irritable. There was a glint of cruelty in his eyes. Remember, I will not die in your hands. I will make all of you become like me. Extreme cold poison explosion. Gu Xing shouted and suddenly activated a violent explosion of spiritual energy. Lu Chen originally thought that Gu Xing had activated the explosion of his spiritual core. However, in terms of the intensity of the explosion, it was far from the explosion of a spiritual core. At that moment, Lu Chen was too close to Gu Xing. Lu Chen could not dodge in time. Moreover, he could not dodge as Lu Yi was still in the crowd. Lu Chen quickly raised the void arm to block, and activated an area defense. Void guard. Brother. Lu Yi anxiously looked at Lu Chen. He had blocked all the attacks alone. When the spiritual explosion dissipated, Lu Yi anxiously looked at the battlefield. In the battlefield, snow filled the sky. The white-haired man was still standing in the same spot. However, Gu Xing had disappeared in front of him, leaving only a small amount of flesh on the ground. Seeing that her brother was fine, Lu Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Chen put down the void arm and narrowed his eyes slightly. The extreme cold poison explosion was powerful, but its power was not as strong as expected. It was not even as strong as Gu Xing's bone-piercing cold. The void arm blocked the spiritual explosion perfectly. Lu Chen heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Gu Xing's remains. On the other hand, Tongbai dragged its severely wounded body and ran away after seeing its master explode. After all, this was the real world. Battle pets could run away. Furball, don't chase it. Lu Chen had just finished his words when he suddenly felt a chill all over his body. Lu Chen frowned. Given his physical strength, he was not afraid of the cold. Why would he feel cold? A moment later, Lu Chen began to shiver and his lips turned purple. At the same time, he was forced to withdraw from the symbiotic state. He could not even mobilize his spiritual energy to protect himself from the cold. What? Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. Then he suddenly remembered what Gu Xing said before his death. Extreme cold poison. He implanted the extreme cold poison into my body. At this thought, Lu Chen's eyelids twitched. Soon he collapsed to the ground. Chapter 1158. When Lu Chen woke up, he found himself lying on a bed. There were 5 or 6 stoves beside the bed, but there were still several blankets covering his body. There were a few people sitting around him with anxious expressions. Lu Yi, great ancestor of Northern Snow, Ling Jun, Qingling, and Gu Fei. Lu Chen sat up, but he still felt a chill. Seeing Lu Chen get up, the others hurriedly surrounded him. Brother Du Kuang, you're awake? How do you feel now? Ling Jun looked at Lu Chen with concern. Lu Yi wanted to hold Lu Chen's hand, but when her palm touched it, her hand was almost frostbitten. It was only a touch, but it was already so cold. Thinking of her brother in such a state, Lu Yi's eyes turned red. "Brother Yu, how are you?" Lu Yi's eyes became wet again. Lu Chen smiled at his sister. "Why are you crying?" "I'm not dead, it's just a little cold." The great-grandmother frowned. Before Lone Star died, he released the extreme cold poison. Originally, all of us would have suffered a calamity, but fortunately, little friend Lone Quang blocked the cold explosion. However, this also meant that you alone absorbed all the cold poison. The poison explosion released all the cold poison in Gu Xing's body at once. Fortunately, little friend Du Quang's body was strong, otherwise, the cold poison would have broken out on the spot, and he would have been powerless. Lu Chen frowned. Could it be that Gu Xing was like this before? Ling Jun shook his head. Gu Xing released the cold poison slowly, and the intensity was not even 1/10,000th of what little friend Du Quang is experiencing now. I didn't expect that guy to poison others before he died. Lu Chen sighed. He had already tried before, but the biggest problem now was that he couldn't use spirit energy. Without the protection of spirit energy, no matter how strong his body was, he was just a sturdy sandbag. "Big brother, I'm sorry." Gu Fei lowered his head and said in a choked voice, "I wanted you to come to Ice Plateau Star to play, but I caused you to be poisoned." Looking at Gu Fei's self-blame, Lu Chen smiled. "What about you? This has nothing to do with you." Lu Chen took a deep breath and sat up. Lu Yi hurriedly covered him with a blanket. "Everyone, you don't have to blame yourselves. Even though I've been poisoned by the cold poison, since Gu Xing can cure it, it's not like I can't. Senior Ling Jun, previously, you all dropped Gu Xing into the extreme frost ice cavern. He should have controlled the frost poison there, right?" Lu Chen looked at Ling Jun. Ling Jun seemed to have something he couldn't say, his brows tightly knitted together. "Brother Du Quang, it was precisely because we wanted to execute him that we sent him into the ice cave. At that time, his cold poison was less than 1/10,000th of yours, so he almost froze to death when he entered the ice cave. With your current condition, I'm afraid you won't be able to enter the ice cave." "That's right, big brother. In the past, Gu Xing was also afraid of the cold, but not as extreme as you. Previously, when you were unconscious, you kept complaining that it was cold. If not for the fact that I was afraid that you would dehydrate, I would have added at least 10 more stoves here. If you go to the ice cave, it's too dangerous." Gu Fei also said. Lu Chen's brows were tightly knitted together. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Right now, I can't use my spirit energy. If I don't get rid of the cold poison, I'll be a cripple. Rather than being a cripple, I'd rather take a gamble. I don't believe that if Gu Xing can survive, I can't." Right now, the extreme frost ice cavern was the only way for Lu Chen to get rid of the cold poison. He had to take a gamble. 2 days later, Lu Chen wrapped himself in 3 sets of ferret coats and followed the North Snow family's team to the depths of the North Snow Valley. Even though Lu Chen had wrapped himself up like a fur ball, he was still shivering from the cold. This wasn't caused by the low temperature outside, but more importantly, the cold inside his body. Halfway through, Lu Chen took off one of his coats. Gu Fei hurried over. "Big brother, why did you take off your coat?" Lu Chen's face was already purple from the cold. "We're about to enter the ice cave. I can't wear so much, right? I need to get used to it first." Gu Fei wanted to say something, but felt that his big brother was right. As they approached the extreme frost ice cavern, Lu Chen had already taken off all 3 coats. In front of them, there was a huge deep well, which was the extreme frost ice cavern. The team also stopped here. "Little friend Lu Chen, are you sure you want to go down?" Great-grandmother looked at Lu Chen with worry. Lu Chen nodded. "I have to go." Louis had been following Lu Chen all this time. "Big brother, I'll go with you." Lu Chen smiled. "Silly girl, you don't have the cold poison. By the way, I've already agreed to your marriage with Gu Fei." Lu Yi's eyes were suddenly covered with a layer of ice. She choked and said, "Big brother, why are you saying this? If you don't come back, I won't marry." Lu Chen couldn't argue with his sister, so he could only nod. He turned around and walked to the edge of the deep well by himself. Ling Jun walked to Lu Chen's side. "This is where the big families punish those who have committed the most heinous crimes. Therefore, there is an ice platform built around it. There are also wooden paddles on the side to stir the ice. There are also people who will break the ice and stir the water regularly to prevent the water from freezing. Lu Chen took a deep breath. Senior Ling Jun, if I don't come back, I'll have to ask Senior to worry about Lu Yi. Brother Du Kuang. Ling Jun's eyes were slightly red. Whether you come back or not, the North Shui family will definitely not mistreat her. If Gu Fei dares to betray her, I'll be the first to break his legs. Lu Chen finally relaxed and looked into the deep well. There was already a thin layer of ice on the surface of the water. Ling Jun immediately had people use wooden paddles to break open the ice. A cold wind blew, and Lu Chen couldn't help but shiver. It was really cold. If he didn't have the cold poison, he wouldn't have jumped into the icy water. The more he thought about it, the more hesitant he became. Lu Chen didn't think about anything and directly jumped into the ice. Brother Du Kuang. Brother. Someone called him from behind, but Lu Chen had already jumped into the ice cave. The temperature of the lake water in the ice cave was extremely low. A bone-piercing chill hit him, and Lu Chen felt that he was going to freeze to death in this place. After only 1 or 2 seconds, Lu Chen already felt that his hands and feet were stiff. He couldn't paddle at all, and his body couldn't help but sink. Damn it, my body is already frozen. The temperature here is too low. Lu Chen's consciousness began to blur. Using his last bit of consciousness, Lu Chen called out the seed originator. The little fur ball also needed to breathe underwater. Without the help of the water avoidance pearl, it might not be able to hold on for long. However, the seed originator was different. It was an amalgamation of spiritual energy and didn't need to breathe. After the seed originator appeared, it immediately knew that its master was in an extremely dangerous situation. However, it also knew that its master couldn't go up now and had to go deeper into the ice cave. A ball of soft spiritual energy turned into a bubble and wrapped around Lu Chen. Under the bubble, Lu Chen was finally able to breathe, and the surrounding extremely cold lake water was also isolated from him. However, the cold poison in his body had been completely activated in this ice cave, and he was still in a very dangerous situation. Seed originator, go down. The seed originator immediately understood Lu Chen's meaning and led the bubble all the way to the bottom of the ice cave. It was unknown how deep this ice cave was. After a few hours, the seed originator was still diving. Lu Chen's body had already turned purple from the cold. He curled up into a ball and lost consciousness. Seeing that its master was in danger, the seed originator released its spiritual energy and frantically dived down. It was now its master's only hope to survive. Chapter 1159. Little originator looked back at Lu Chen. Boss was dying, but he just told it to dive down, but didn't tell it what to look for. Of course, even Lu Chen himself didn't know what to look for, so Lone Star wouldn't tell him. Right at this moment, Xiao Yuan suddenly stopped. It seemed to have reached the bottom of the lake. Suddenly, a red light came out of nowhere. Through the red light, Sub-originator saw the scene at the bottom of the lake. There were hundreds of corpses here. Nobody knew how long they had been in the water, but they didn't rot at all. Their limbs were stiff, sinking in the mud. Su Yuan didn't have time to think, and swam quickly toward the light. It was the same with the dark bottom of the lake. The light seemed to be there, but it took Su Yuan more than 2 hours to reach it. When it finally reached the light, Su Yuan noticed that there was a deep hole in the riverbed, with a diameter of at least 1,000 meters. The water around the deep hole was boiling and rushing upward. An arc-shaped water curtain was formed on the surface of the deep hole. Above the water curtain, water was rising upward. Below the water curtain, there was another space, where no lake water seemed to enter. In the violent turbulence, Originator, who was already a bit tired, had to keep himself from being swept away and at the same time, ensure the safety of his boss. Gradually he found it difficult to hold on. At this moment, Lu Chen felt better, maybe because the water temperature increased, and he finally opened his eyes slowly. As soon as he opened his eyes, Lu Chen saw the weird deep hole under them. Su Yuan was trying hard to maintain balance in the turbulence, but it couldn't get close to the arc-shaped water curtain. Lu Chen frowned. That deep hole might be the key to detoxifying the cold poison. However, Lu Chen couldn't use any of his spiritual power, so he couldn't help Su Yuan. At this moment, Lu Chen found that Rhubarb was a little restless. Rhubarb wants to come out. Rhubarb, the pressure here is too high. You may not be able to bear it. Lu Chen communicated with Rhubarb. But Rhubarb still wanted to come out. Lu Chen thought for a while, and asked Su Yuan to temporarily give up on entering the deep pit. Then he asked Su Yuan to strengthen the defensive ability of the spirit power bubble before releasing Rhubarb. Rhubarb barked in one direction as soon as it came out of the bubble. Little Originator immediately understood and led the bubble in that direction. After swimming for a while, Originator found a huge rock at the bottom of the sea. It seemed that Rhubarb wanted it to go from there. Translator. WQL Editor. Alim. The tacit understanding between Rhubarb and Rhubarb was needless to say. Translator. Transin Editor. Transin 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 Translator. Transin Editor. Transin. Upon seeing the cave, the Originator immediately dived in. After going through the cave for a while, they saw a water curtain cave in front of them. This side was full of cold lake water, while the other side was an independent space, isolated from the lake water. This time, it didn't take much effort for Su Yuan to bring Lu Chen and Rhubarb in. Finally, they left the bottom of the lake, and Su Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. It was very hot in the cave, but Lu Chen felt indescribably comfortable. He had finally recovered his strength. However, Rhubarb and Su Yuan didn't seem to like it here. Rhubarb was so hot that it stuck out its tongue. Su Yuan seemed to be exhausted. Lu Chen hurriedly called them back. It's so comfortable here. Lu Chen felt the temperature here. He hadn't felt so comfortable in a long time. After recovering, Lu Chen even felt that he could use part of his spiritual power. This entrance must have been hidden by Lone Star. That's why we didn't find it at first. Lu Chen said, but I don't know if this place is connected to the abyss at the bottom of the lake. Let's go inside and see. There was a damaged wall in front of them. They didn't know if it was done by Lone Star. The strange thing was that after passing through the ruins of the wall, Lu Chen clearly felt that the temperature inside had doubled. It's very difficult for ordinary people to survive in such a high temperature. Lu Chen took a deep breath and felt very comfortable. Moving forward, there was another damaged wall. After passing this wall, the surrounding temperature rose again. After passing through 3 layers of damaged walls, the temperature here was extremely high. Moreover, Lu Chen found that the ground here was much smoother than before, and there were some fish bones around. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Did Lone Star cultivate here for several years? Not only did he control the cold poison, but he also improved his strength greatly. Lu Chen also sat cross-legged here. Previously, Lu Chen couldn't use the spiritual power in his spiritual core, but now he could use it at will. Let's check the situation of the cold poison first. Lu Chen entered the state of selflessness and looked at his spiritual power. It turned out that the cold poison had already integrated into his spiritual core. Previously, he couldn't use his spiritual power because his spiritual core was frozen by the cold poison. But now, under the high temperature, the cold poison was merging with his spiritual core. If he could cultivate his mental cultivation method now, he should pay attention to his spiritual core to absorb the cold poison better. Unfortunately, Lu Chen didn't have a good cultivation method now. My mixed yuan mental cultivation method increases the spiritual power of my fighting spirit. This is a bit troublesome. It seems that I can only wait for the spiritual core to absorb the cold poison on its own. Since it was absorbing the cold poison on its own, Lu Chen stood up and looked around. And there's another wall in front. Is it the same as the one that was destroyed before? Lu Chen quickly noticed that the stone wall in front of him was different. He knocked on it with his hand, and it sounded hollow. Gu Xing had his mental cultivation method, but Lu Chen could only let his spiritual core absorb the cold poison on its own. The efficiency was too low. However, Lu Chen's cold poison was stronger than Gu Xing's, and his fire affinity was far from Gu Xing's. This meant that he could go deeper. Thinking of this, Luchan directly smashed the wall in front of him with a punch. A biting cold heat wave hit him in the face. Luchan didn't feel any discomfort. Instead, he felt refreshed all over. It seems that this is a cultivation room. The deeper I go, the higher the temperature. I don't know how many levels there are. Anyway, I still feel a little cold. I can continue to go deeper. Thinking of this, Luchan's goal this time was to find the stone wall. 5th level, 6th level, 7th level. When he reached the 7th level, Luchan finally felt that long-lost feeling. He started to feel hot. However, he just felt hot, but it was still far from being unbearable. The spiritual core seems to be absorbing the cold poison faster. I feel that my body's spiritual power seems to have improved a lot. Luchan felt for a while. This was the real world, and the system didn't give him an accurate value. He could only feel it by himself. Fortunately, although Luchan didn't know how much his spiritual power had improved, the absorption and improvement of both the cold poison and his spiritual power were much faster than before. Oh, not bad. Luchan was suddenly overjoyed. Let's go deeper. 8th level, 9th level. When he reached the 9th level, Luchan heard the sound of water flowing. He looked up and found that it was at the bottom of the huge pit that Originator had tried to enter before. It turned out that the strange pit was at the end of the cave. Rhubarb really found a shortcut. Chapter 1160. Rhubarb was still strong. Without it, Luchan and Originator would have been in danger. It was not hard to imagine that with Lone Star's strength at that time, it was impossible for him to enter this place, but it was possible for him to enter the cave at the bottom of the lake. Luchan looked around and found that the so-called red light was emitted from the center of the circular pit. There seemed to be something else there. Luchan approached it cautiously. To Luchan, the surrounding temperature was barely bearable. One must know that this was a severe extreme cold poison, coupled with Luchan's tens of thousands of fire affinity, which was barely bearable. Ordinary people couldn't even get close to this place. No wonder Lone Star stopped at the 4th floor. There's a talisman array on the ground. Luchan noticed the runes on the ground, and the center of the array was right in the center. There's a person sitting there? Luchan was a little surprised. He looked carefully and found that there was indeed a person sitting there, but there was only a skeleton left. There was a red bead floating 3 feet above the skeleton's head. The surrounding temperature and red halo seemed to be emitted by that bead. What's that? Luchan was a little surprised. But before he figured it out, Luchan didn't dare to touch it with his hands. There were 3 things in front of the skeleton. One was oddly shaped, like a pair of glasses. The other was a badge. Luchan recognized it at first glance as a rank badge in Jiotian. There were a few words written on the badge, but they were not in Jiotian. Luchan didn't have the translation function, and he didn't know the language of the Ice Plateau Star. There was a book next to the badge. Luchan picked it up and checked it. There was a lot of content written on it, and some pictures of people practicing. But it was still in the language of the Ice Plateau Star. Luchan didn't dare to jump to conclusions. Finally, Luchan's eyes fell on the pair of glasses. Normally, at least the book wouldn't be able to hold in such a high temperature. But the book is still intact. It seems that he left it there on purpose. Since it was purposely left behind, then, those glasses can't be a translation device, right? Thinking of this, Luchan picked up his glasses and looked at it again. Sure enough, this was a translation tool from Jiotian. The owner of Withered Bones had actually brought it out. After putting on his glasses, Luchan was no longer obstructed from looking at these things. It's actually a 9-star king? Luchan looked at the badge in surprise. He had seen many 9-star kings, but this was the Ice Plain planet. Other than Lone Star, the others were far from reaching the human king realm. Then he looked at the books again. The opening was a line of handwritten words left behind by that person. I was originally a cultivator of the 6th heaven of Jiotian. I was an itinerant immortal, true fire, mysterious ice. However, I was unlucky and encountered a level 7 heavenly tribulation. Although I used the tribulation transcendence pill, I barely managed to survive and became an itinerant immortal. He's actually an individual immortal. Lu Chen was shocked. His level was even higher than what he had guessed. Perhaps when one reached the realm of immortal, the badge no longer showed the level. That was why it stopped at the 9-star king realm. Lu Chen continued reading. However, because the inner demons were too strong, although I was still alive, my body was seriously injured and I returned to the ice plane planet to await my death. Those who do not enter the immortal path are ultimately mortal. Itinerant immortals are ultimately not true immortals. They only have a glimpse of the heavenly secrets, yet they dare to call themselves half-immortals. They are really deceiving themselves and others. In the end, they can't escape the 6 realms of samsara. In my life as an immortal, I abandoned my family and loved ones. Now, I'm only waiting for my death here. Everyone seeks immortality, but I don't know how many died without a corpse or how many abandoned their 7 emotions and 6 desires. It doesn't matter if you're all-powerful or famous. In the end, if you don't become a true immortal, you're just a pile of bones in the wilderness. Successor, no matter who you are, if you can enter the core of the 9 refinements true fire array, it means that you have extraordinary strength. I leave this technique and this 9 refinements ice fire pearl as a gift to you. It's also proof that the true fire mysterious ice pearl has been in this Jyotian. The 9 refinements ice fire pearl is an auxiliary dharma treasure for fire and ice elements. It can be switched between states. During cultivation, this pearl can be used to assist you. You can choose different attributes according to your needs. It can increase your affinity to fire or ice elements while increasing your spiritual power. The true fire mysterious ice sword technique is the strongest technique that made me famous. It's at the immortal technique level. When your affinity to fire and ice reaches 20,000, you can learn the first level, polar ice flame explosion. It's terrifying and can split mountains and seas. Use it with caution. Lu Chen was shocked. This was actually an immortal technique. The only immortal technique he had seen so far was the dark corrosion Jyotian used by the dark corrosion. Its power was terrifying. If he didn't know the 2nd level of spirit chi refinement, his current skills wouldn't be able to compete with it. And this true fire mysterious ice sword technique was actually an immortal technique level sword technique. Damn, the affinity to the ice element also needs 20,000? Lu Chen shook his head. His affinity to the fire element had just reached 100 million. He was still far from this requirement. But fortunately, this technique was an item that had already been manifested. As long as Lu Chen brought it to the Jyotian, he would be able to learn it quickly. Thinking of this, Lu Chen first put away his kung fu. Speaking of which, this was the 2nd time that Lu Chen had encountered the corpse of an itinerant immortal. The first one was at the bottom of the heavenly lake on the holy mountain, where he found it together with the corpse of Devil Beast Supreme. But last time, the itinerant immortal only left a task. This time, the itinerant immortal also left a will for Lu Chen. Now, Lu Chen seemed to have figured out one thing. Why was that itinerant immortal no match for Devil Beast Supreme? Itinerant immortals were immortal cultivators who had failed to pass the tribulation. Although they could use the tribulation transcendence pill to save their lives during the tribulation, if they failed, their physical bodies would be damaged to varying degrees. The mountain people and Mu Xian's injuries should be able to recover. This situation should be relatively common. In other words, most itinerant immortals were stronger than a peak 9-star king. But there were exceptions. For example, the itinerant immortal in front of him was in a very bad situation. He could only wait here for his death. In that case, there would be people whose strength would be greatly reduced, just like the one at the bottom of the heavenly lake on the holy mountain. It seems that the strength of itinerant immortals can't be generalized. Lu Chen said faintly, "Forget it, let's get down to business first." The ice fire pearl floated above the corpse. Lu Chen simply sat cross-legged and removed the cold poison in his body. With the 9 refinements ice fire pearl beside Lu Chen felt that the cold poison in his body was getting weaker and weaker. It was quickly being absorbed by the spirit pill. So fast. As expected, the effect in the central area is much stronger than in the periphery. Lu Chen exclaimed. His cold poison was 10,000 times more potent than Lone Star's, but it was still disappearing very quickly. Lone Star, you actually didn't enter the central area. You were very close to the two treasures. It's a pity that you only took a small step and lost a great opportunity. You probably never dreamed that your original plan to kill me didn't succeed. Instead, it was a blessing in disguise. I obtained a Dharma treasure and an immortal cultivation technique. Not only did Lone Star not expect this, even Lu Chen himself did not expect this. In addition, Lu Chen's greatest gain was that he learned that in other people's worlds, there were also opportunities. You all said that the celestial demon set is not complete. Then is it possible that the celestial demon Wutian exists in a different world? Lu Chen could not be sure about this. Let's not think so much. Although I can't cultivate, Lone Star was able to release the cold poison before he died. This means that after the cold poison is absorbed, I can use it. After saying that, Lu Chen immediately entered the state of anatta and carefully sensed the changes in the spirit pill. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.